And we're live from New York. It's AVG Fantasy Football. Just kidding. We live in Las Vegas, but my name is Michael Marcanio. I'm here with Tyler Reveles, also known as your boy T. I'm here with Andre Navarro. And I'm also here with Cheese Potato, also known as Mr. 645, also known as Anthony Reveles. And we're here to give you a great podcast today. This is episode 32 of the season 3 of the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast, also known as Average Fantasy Football. Today we're continuing our division breakdowns. Today we're doing the NFC South. So we're talking Falcons. We're talking Panthers. We're talking about the Saints. We're talking about the Buccaneers.
What was that?
I don't know.
The Saints.
The Saints. Anyways, but before we get into that, like always, if you want easy navigation through the episode, go check out the description. I have a little timetable, a little table of contents, time stamped of whenever we're talking about each player. You can just easily go through that if you don't have time to listen to the entire podcast. Very useful tool when doing fantasy research. But if you haven't already, go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe and write a review and a rating on the Apple Podcast app. It really helps us a lot.
Yeah, I'll Venmo you $1 if you do it by the end of the week.
By the end of the week.
And Dre will buy you in and out.
The check's in the mail.
And cheeseburgers on it.
I could Venmo it. It gets there instantly.
But yeah, let's
Tax-free $1.
Tax-free for subscribing.
That's how you come up.
That's pretty cheap. That's pretty.
That's not too bad. That's
a pretty good deal if you ask me.
Yeah, you just gotta screenshot it to the AVG DMs, and I'll Venmo you $1.
Yes.
Done.
Yeah,
Do it. Is there anything I forgot? I don't think so.
I need $1.
So just knocked that out so perfectly. So.
Dude, I might leave a review and Venmo myself $1.
I can use $1.
But let's get into it. You want to start us off? We're talking Falcons first. We just hop right into it.
Do you have any big news?
Let's just fly into it.
Soar into it?
Devontae Freeman signed Drew Rosenhaus as his agent. So they said they're going to try to sign him to a team before the end of the month. Because he fired his agent. Yeah, Devontae Freeman fired his agent and hired Drew Rosenhaus like last week.
Nice. So he's gonna get signed then.
Yeah, he's gonna bully his way somewhere. So I mean, what do you think? I said Jags because they really hate Fournette.
It's a possibility. Just don't say something that rhymes with Beagles.
Yeah, or Schmeagles.
That's what I said. I pray to God that he doesn't.
But that would be illegals.
Yeah, maybe the Patriots. The Patriots will get him on. They're just a type to get dudes like this.
Yeah,
trying to prove themselves. Give them like a 1 year, $2 million deal, $3 million, and like here, come win. Cam and Devontae.
Devontae likes to win.
I think he wants to get paid more than that. So we'll see.
Yeah, he said no to $4 million by the Bucks and the Seahawks. So
yeah.
Seahawks got better on defense.
Yeah, but see, Cam took a low contract. So man.
All right.
That's it though.
Yeah, I mean.
Former Falcon. See, that's a good segue because now we're talking about the Falcons.
All right, let's get into the Falcons then, baby.
Word.
You want to turn off the intro real quick?
No, I don't.
All right. You won't. There's never a bad time to drop that. I'm not gonna lie.
Me and Andre were talking. We gotta get the Jurassic Park drop.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what for yet.
Like when they see all the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
We should get that. That'd be super funny.
Somewhere. We'll find it.
And then you can put up the meme of that guy.
I'm gonna write that down so I remember.
Of our cousin.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, yeah, we'll start out with Matty Ice right here. Finished QB 11 last year. It's going around in the 8th round of the ADP right near.
Matt Ryan for audio listeners.
Right near.
Just in case people don't know his name. His nickname.
I do like Matty Ice. You know, I like to pair up my quarterbacks. So he's usually one of the quarterbacks I always try to get. You know, just tied to a pretty good offense. You know, you got weapons like Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. We'll touch on them in a second. But one thing I saw right here, in the 4 years that Dirk Cutter has been the OC in Atlanta with Matt Ryan, he's averaging just shy of 4,600 passing yards and 28 touchdowns. You know, those are some pretty good numbers right there for a quarterback who, you know, we're preaching on waiting on quarterbacks. You can go and get this guy in these later rounds. So, yeah, I'll love me some Matty Ice.
Yeah, I mean, a lock for 4,000 yards. I want to say 22 touchdowns. That's kind of his floor in a sense with this offense. And, you know, he's a quarterback who could approach 5,000 if the defense plays the way they do. And Todd Gurley said he could sit out, actually, reading that, but potentially if there's no plan. Or if he has the knee issues and it's Matt Ryan throwing the ball, he could approach 5,000 and 30 touchdowns. So, you know, pretty good ceiling there as well. He's kind of in that range, though, where I might – when he's like that quarterback that's like the next one up, I'll probably sit back and maybe go after someone at like one of the next tier quarterbacks because I feel like I'm not losing too much with the Matthew Stafford or someone else there and keep picking my position players. But that's where like if I'm taking late round, he's kind of that cusp of guys I'm starting to eye. Or if I just like the value and Matt Ryan goes late enough, then I'll jump on him. Like you said, and pair him with another guy. So,
I mean, he slangs it. So he has a back-to-back 600 attempt seasons. They're one of the most pass-heavy offenses. I mean,
I heard an interesting stat is that Russell Gage had more fantasy red zone targets than Julio Jones.
And Russell Gage is a good sleeper too. He got himself about 80 targets.
It's just kind of ridiculous how like Julio Jones is like hands down one of the best, like top 3 at the very least, if not potentially like the number 1.
Yeah, he got voted number 1 by Pro Football Focus, number 1 wide receiver over Michael Thomas.
Yeah, and it's like he just doesn't get targeted in the red zone by Matt Ryan or coordinator or whatever it is, or I don't know.
It's weird. I mean, we know he's going to get the ball, but it's like Matt Ryan just that's why he tries so hard by the end zone, by the red zone. He's like, I'm getting in. Like, come on.
He's fighting with 3 guys on him.
Yeah, he knows. Like against the Niners when he like fell forward, like he's like, nah, you're not stopping. And he's a big boy, but
big boy.
So
Big boy.
Hey, big boy.
I mean, that's
Matt Ryan, kind of self-explanatory. Like, you kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah, late round guy that you could get some up, not super late, but you know, you definitely have value there for where you're getting him at.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna move on to the running backs. We got brand new newcomer here, Todd Gurley. Leaves the Rams, goes to the Atlanta Falcons.
My hat got in the way.
He leaves the Rams, goes to the Falcons. Do you guys like this move? Obviously, I don't think you're getting the same Todd Gurley from a couple years ago through 2 or 3 years ago, but
yeah, I mean, from a volume perspective, I mean, who does he have behind him? So it's what's his name, Brian Hill?
Yeah, Ito Smith.
Ito Smith. I mean, so you got to figure he's going to be a 70% snap share type of guy. The Falcons are usually one of the higher scoring offenses as well. You know, last year was kind of he didn't catch the ball as much, but I don't think that was a him thing. I just think it was the Rams and the offense and how everything was going. So, I mean, you know, the 70, what was he getting, like 70 receptions back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Roughly?
He was killing it.
Yeah, I don't think those days are still there. But, you know, if he, on a volume basis, if he can get you 240 and 40 to 50 receptions, I think you'll be happy with where you get Gurley. I just think the concern is the knee. Does it hold up? Is it something where he has some issues throughout the year? I kind of liked him earlier starting the year. Now I'm kind of getting a little hesitant to, you know, he's the RB14. I don't. It's getting a little risky for me with that. We don't know how that knee's going to hold up again on him being like the workhorse back, because I think they are going to kind of use him as the workhorse. The price tag is kind of getting a little too risky for me personally on Todd Gurley right now. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I liked him when he was going a little bit farther down, but when he's starting to creep into that top 12 range, almost on the cusp, it's a little bit kind of, I don't know. I'm like a little
murky.
Yeah,
waters.
I just don't know.
You're gambling.
Yeah, it's almost like the risk might not be worth the reward, because like I said, I don't think he's that, 15 touchdown, 200. You're not getting that type of upside. I mean, he'd have to he'd have to get some Mexico some Mexico juice or something. But yeah, it's kind of it's a little too. It's getting too risky for me.
Too rich for your blood.
Plus, you said, I mean, you don't know. He's threatened to sit out this whole year with the whole coronavirus situation going on too. So you got to weigh that into. Obviously, I mean, for instance, say you draft him, and then all of a sudden, a week or two later, it's like, boom, he's going to sit out the whole year. Now you just wasted pretty much a third-round draft pick on him. Yep. I do like Gurley. I mean, I don't think he's like an RB1 like he was those couple years with the Rams, but I think if you draft a pretty good running back in the first round or second round, and then you come around in the third, fourth round, you draft Gurley, he's pretty much like I think he'll be like a serviceable RB2. He's not going to win you your week maybe necessarily, but he's not going to lose you your week because of the amount of touches he should get. I mean, Freeman last year in the offense saw 70 targets. That was the 10th most for running backs And in Cutter's system, the 4 years he's been in Atlanta, the running backs have never seen less than 110 targets as a whole. So like you said, I think 50-plus receptions is definitely in the realm of possibility with, 200-something carries, some goal line work. I remember I couldn't find the stat, but I was looking at, I can't remember how it was exactly. They're saying that in terms of, goal line rushes, Gurley is one of the best, goal line running backs in the NFL. He when he gets the ball on goal line, he pretty much converts it to touchdowns. So I think as long as the knee can hold up and he does play a full 16 games, outside of the whole coronavirus situation, I think he'll be at least a top 20 running back. It's just, do you want to take the gamble like Anthony was saying?
Yeah.
I mean, 10-plus touchdowns in 4 of his 5 years, over 1,000 total yards in every single year. So, I mean, if you can give me a baseline of 10 touchdowns and over 1,000 total yards, like I said, I just think that's a serviceable RB2.
I think in a lot of home redraft leagues, you're going to run into the thing where people are going to see the namesake and they're going to kind of jump on him within that top 12 range. So if I'm in that type of situation, yeah, I'm probably going to avoid Todd Gurley. But if, like you're saying, if you can snag him maybe in that 3rd or 4th round, ideally, then I think you have value there in that situation. Yeah. So just I would say play it by ear, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there also is the other part of this too. What I was looking to his numbers is he was the efficiency was down lower than it's ever been in his career. I know the Rams' offensive line wasn't the same last year, and that definitely made a difference. But 3.8 yards per carry on 223 attempts, only a long of 25 last year. So it's telling me he wasn't breaking away big runs. So it's I don't like to see a loss of burst, as well as only a 6.7 yards per reception average, with another 23 as a long in there. So it tells me there's a red flag that he might have lost some of that burst. His numbers were kind of David Montgomery-esque, where they were just numbers. And if it's he was going to get the volume again and just kind of put up that blah type of stat line, if you're taking him at 13, 14, I don't think you're going to be happy.
Yeah. Dre?
Yeah. I mean, I guess to go along with that, from 17 or for the last 3 years, it's gone down progressively in attempts, rushing yards, receptions, and receiving yards. It's gone down year by year by year. So, I mean, he's not getting better. He's still scoring double-digit touchdowns, but I mean, he's in a good offense. He could still have the touchdown upside.
Yes, 100%.
But, yeah, yards per carry is the only thing that's kind of been all right. Last year was a career low, but, yeah, his touches career low, yards career low. I mean, all the way across the board, only 31 catches, only 2 receiving touchdowns. His receiving touchdowns have gone down from 6 in 17, 4 in 18, to 2 in 19. So, and his yards per reception, 12.3 in 17, 9.8 in 18, and 6.7, like Anthony said, in 19. So it's just going down all the way across the board. So, I mean, new offense, maybe he's going back home to Georgia, trying to prove it. So maybe, he gets some extra juice, some incentive. But, I mean, he's only 25.
I wonder if low-key he's bringing up the whole safety plan thing to give his knees an extra year to
he could
maybe just
because I mean as much shit as we talk, I mean I'll take Gurley. I mean he's still 25, 26. I mean I think Keshawn Vaughn's going to be 24 into his rookie season, and Gurley's 25 going into his 6th year.
I mean, if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to put up stay healthy, first of all, and then put up some numbers if he wants to get another good, juicy little contract. Because, he is on a 1-year deal pretty much.
But, I mean, like I said, even if he wants to, if he's lost that burst, it's going to be – I think you're going to be disappointed if he's lost that burst.
He had 256 rushing attempts 2 years ago. He had 254 total touches last year, so – that's total. So it's going down.
Yeah, so the wear and tear is catching up.
Yeah, like I said, I still like Gurley, but he's kind of raised an eyebrow, and that eyebrow,
the Rock's
the people's eyebrows, it's a little too rich for my blood. Let's move on.
Yeah, that's all good. We can move on to your boy Anthony. You love this guy. You grabbed him and you actually shined me on him
in every mock draft we've done.
That and but even in his rookie year. What's going on with these highlights? Anyways, even in his rookie year, you kind of put his name in my head, and I was able to grab him. And great guy, best man at my wedding.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting a little too hot and sweaty on Calvin Ridley. I had to take the shirt off and cool down a little bit. I kind of was digging into some numbers, and there was a correlation to the last part of his success when. What's his name? Austin Hooper went down. his numbers did jump up a little bit. Like I said, I do see some of a target progression up. He did. I think when I gave the 16-game number, he was like a 90 reception guy or 80 something. I posted it on the page, but he was around 1,100 yards. I think 80 something catches, and I forget the touchdown number, but I mean that would have been good numbers. To me, it's kind of, if Austin Hooper's just meh, he's gonna probably finish in the top 10 just based off of the passing volume, the way the offense, or not Austin Hooper, sorry, Hayden Hurst.
Oh, no.
If Hayden Hurst fills a big role, I think where I was going originally I could have been a little bit too high on Calvin Ridley. So I've kind of hedged it a little bit. Like I said, I think I had him as high as like 8 at one point. I've kind of pulled him back down to about 12. I said Hayden Hurst is that like kind of X factor to me. If he's just an okay tight end, Calvin Ridley's going to be in my hands down top 12. If Hayden Hurst is actually going to see 90 targets or maybe 80 to 100, then I think Calvin Ridley's ceiling is limited a little bit. So I think I've talked about him on extensive. So that's just kind of me just talking about to kind of like how I was getting too high on him for a second.
I mean, for me, Ridley's like the perfect number 2. I mean, he's going in like the 3rd, 4th round. And I think if you can get one of these stud guys like a Michael Thomas, I wouldn't even be mad at pairing him with Julio Jones. I know it sounds ridiculous to pair Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but like Anthony just said, if you can get 2 potential top 12, 2 potential top 15 players, I mean, why not? But yeah, I think he's the perfect wide receiver 2 who has that wide receiver 1 upside. I mean, pretty much back-to-back years, he's gotten you like 90 targets, 60 receptions, 800 and something yards. The thing you like to see, we're just joking around with Julio Jones, how he doesn't get targeted. The touchdowns are never Julio Jones things, but 10 touchdowns Ridley's rookie year, 7 the next year. So he's kind of nose for the end zone. I mean, I don't know if that's even like a real thing, but it does seem like certain players, they do seem to find the end zone a little bit more than other players. I am probably one of the biggest Hayden Hurst guys. I think he kind of fills in that Austin Hooper role right away, but I mean, with the whole situation, coronavirus, still got to come in, still got to learn the playbook and all that stuff. So that could hamper him a little bit. And I think Ridley could finally make that jump to like 120-plus targets. I think we've basically seen like what his floor could be, and I think he can only go up from here. So, yeah, give me all the Calvin Ridley shares.
Yeah, like he was on pace for about 120 last year. He missed. He really realistically missed 4 games. He played like 1 snap in one of the games.
Three games.
There was one game where he didn't play. He
like
technically missed 3 games,
okay,
but like the one game he played like I think like 5 snaps. It was basically like
3.8 games.
Yeah, so I mean,
games.
like I said, I was projecting some progression. I mean, it's his 3rd year in the league. Just growth with the offense, growth with chemistry with Matt Ryan. I said I don't think Hayden Hurst is as good as Austin Hooper, so I'm definitely not pacing him for about 120. He's kind of an unknown though. He was a 1st-round pick, does have some athletic ability. I've dug into like his efficiency and stuff like that. There's some potential for him to be above average for sure. And that's where I was pushing Calvin really towards like 140, 150 with the targets. And that's where I kind of cooled down a little bit with that because, like I said, got to see what Hayden Hurst's role was. But the no offseason thing does kind of, like you said, kind of boost towards that Calvin Ridley, especially earlier in the year. But if Hayden Hurst is not really that involved in this offense, he's going to probably push 150 on the target. And Julio's going to be like, he's going to be up there with the Michael Adams, Devontae Thomas in the 180 range. So.
Did you say Michael Adams, Devontae Thomas?
Yeah, dude, that's how
we're saying fuse.
These are dance.
All right. I'm big on Calvin. I think he's going to be this year's Chris Godwin. I think he's going to ball. Yeah, I think
let's get a time. Let's say that again, but more.
I think he's going to be this year's Chris Godwin.
I don't know why I made you.
They're going to have 2 wide receiver 1s on their team for show this year. I think both of them. So I just looked up just some small numbers. He did have the rookie record for the Falcons with 10 tugs. I'm a big target. Once you exceed a certain amount of targets, how good do you do? He had 6 games of 7 or more targets. And in those 7 games, he averaged 17.6 half-point PPR points. So, I mean, 7 targets, I feel like that could be a floor for him this upcoming season. I mean, I just said Matt Ryan, 616 attempts. Let's say Julio gets 150. Let's say you get Russell Gage 90. That's 240. The running backs get 125. You give Hayden Hurst another 100. That still leaves over 100 for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
And he's never had over 70 catches. I can just see him just breaking out, getting 10 to 12 touchdowns. I mean, especially when you have a guy like Julio on the other side who is allergic to touchdowns sometimes. Like I said, 6 games of 7 or more, I'll take that 100%.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. So a lot of the rankings I keep seeing from the quote-unquote experts, everyone pretty much has Godwin and Evans in the top 12. So basically, like I said, you could draft both of them and you have two number ones in a sense on the same team.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to wager, or I'm thinking that we're all in agreement actually, that the Falcons are more likely to have Julio and Ridley finish as number ones in top 12 compared to the Bucks having two number ones?
I would say so.
Because I would think that. I would rather rank Ridley and Julio in the top 12 instead of putting Evans and Godwin in my top 12. You know, not discrediting those guys, but I think there's a better possibility that the Falcons receivers can get it done outside of the Bucks receivers.
Or if you average their two spots, theirs would be higher than the Bucks.
Yeah. And I have some good stats that'll back that up. I think why the Falcons will when we get into the Bucks. But yeah.
Do you guys do you have Ridley in your top 12 or am I the only one?
I'll probably. I mean, if we were to redo it, I can. He's someone I could see. I mean, I think he's gonna ball. So I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
Say
I think I'm in my
now.
top 15 right now. It's still like you know you're moving things around all there. So I feel like sometimes you're nitpicking things. You'll move one player up, then you'll move him down, like you said, and then all of a sudden you move back up, and then you move him down.
Yeah. And he only played 13 games. And actually, that game that I just looked, the game where he got hurt, he had 5 catches for like 80 something yards and a touchdown off 5 targets.
Oh, the 14.
He had 5 catches on 5 targets for 76 yards and a touchdown, and they only played half the game. So he would have been balling.
Yeah, draft Calvin
Balling.
Ridley. Are we jumping to Julio Jones? Draft Julio Jones.
Quintores Lopez.
I don't think we need to really say
there's not
Julio
much to
Jones.
say about Julio. I mean, he's good.
If he scores double-digit touchdowns has he done it yet?
Maybe 1 year.
If he does, he's gonna be maybe one. If he gets there.
I mean, you just know what you're getting with Julio Jones. You know, 145 plus
his second
targets
year.
in 5 of the last 6 years. You know, he's going to see 145 plus targets again. He could push, 160, 170.
180.
Yeah,
I said if Hayden Hurst ends up being a bust, like he's going to push 170, 180 because they're not going to throw to the running back a crazy amount of times. Russell Gage might even be a low key like 3 wide receiver type of sleeper guy. He might see 100. But yeah, he could push 170, 180.
Yeah. I mean, he's top 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's one of like the only receivers I'm willing to take in the first round. Obviously, like in that back half of the first round. But yeah, one of only the 3 receivers I'm probably willing to take.
I will say I have seen. We can move on in a second, but I will say I have seen a lot of other fantasy analysts putting him out of their top 5.
Yeah, they're tripping.
That's crazy, right?
And they have like DeAndre Hopkins in front of him, which blows my mind.
Yeah, with Kyle. Yeah, I mean, I do
Sorry,
think
no,
that
you
the
like
Cardinals.
Hopkins.
Those guys are the
I mean,
experts, dude.
I got Julio on my dynasty team. That's my boy.
Quintores
Quintores Lopez. I don't know why his name shouldn't be that. Quintores Lopez. But, yeah, no, he was 6 yards shy this year of 6 straight 1,400-yard seasons.
Dang.
Which is fucking insane.
That's wild.
And I was looking at his targets the last 7 years, and he's averaging like 150 targets for the last 6 years.
He's a monster.
Yeah, he had a
good.
season of 170, 163, 200, 157. Like, yeah.
Yeah, put him back in your top 5.
Yeah. And the thing is, he's 31 years old, but dude, he stays on the field. I mean, he's played in at least 14 games for the last 6 years.
Yeah, he good.
He good.
All right, let's get on the next guy.
All right, let's go on to Hayden Hurst. This is kind of Tyler's.
Go ahead.
Tyler likes this guy.
I forgot about
this
him.
is like my I don't know who was like a breakout tight end, so I could be like, this is my breakout.
This
OJ
is
Howard.
like Darren Waller for
This is
next
my,
year.
okay, that's a good one. Like that. That was a good one.
That's my dude, but I mean, it's true.
This is like my Darren Waller. So yeah, they trade for Hayden Hurst. They ship off Hooper to the Cleveland Browns. You know, I hate to say that you could just like plug and play a certain player, but I mean measurables wise, like 40 wise, height, weight, you know, all that stuff, you know, pretty much Hooper and Hayden Hurst are the same exact person. And, you know, in Cutter's system, I'm just going to say this is how they use the tight end. So they go out and they get Hayden Hurst. I think they're going to use him in the same fashion. Is he as good as Austin Hooper? That's yet to be determined, yet to be seen. But I think he's going to be given as much opportunity as Hooper was the last couple years. So Hooper finished tight end 6 back-to-back years, so heavily utilized in this offense. His 18.5% target share was 8th most for tight ends. So I would like to think that Hayden Hurst will at least be top 10 in terms of target share. Hooper also ranked top 5 for tight ends in red zone and end zone targets. So,
Sorry, guys.
so you're talking about Julio Jones isn't getting these end zone and red zone targets. It's just because a lot of them were going to Austin Hooper in the tight end position. I think Hayden Hurst will be the beneficiary of that. and get a lot of that. And then just some crazy numbers right here. Hooper actually ran the fourth most routes out of the slot, 45%, or the fourth most routes for tight end. 45% of those routes came from the slot. And in 2018, he ran the sixth most routes for tight ends. 41% coming out of the slot. So not just a tight end actually lining up out wide and in the slot and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm big on Hayden Hurst, especially because he's a guy in a lot of these home leagues. People aren't going to know who he is. So, obviously, if you listen to the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast, you'll know who he is. But in a lot of these other home leagues with your buddies and stuff like that, people aren't going to know who Hayden Hurst is. He hasn't done much to date, so he could fall into the later rounds. And if you want to wait on tight end, I think here's a guy you can get, in the 10th round or later, obviously, but he can return top 10 upside.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I think all the mock drafts we've done. I've gotten him in 2 of them.
Yeah, he's moving up all the rankings.
He's been in my top 10 since like a day after we did the rankings.
The day after, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, I just like I said, I didn't dig too deep.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think I was just a little bit lower on the talent, but the opportunity is basically everything Tyler said. So I couldn't deny the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think just to touch on the downside, because I actually more on the side of Tyler of everything just said, but you could see a year where that's more in line with, one of Hayden Hurst or Austin Hooper's, years prior, 88, 71, 660, and 4. That's still a pretty good. Like I said, if you're drafting him that late, the year prior, 65 targets, 49 catches, 526. He has to do it for as the starter. We haven't yet to seen that. He was kind of third on the depth chart in Baltimore, so they kind of let him go. So it kind of tells you they didn't necessarily believe in him, whether he's talented or not. That's yet to be seen. I'm more on Tyler's side of the discussion, but just to touch on the downside. But you're paying such a low price that it's like I'm taking the chance 95% of the time.
It's like the risk versus the reward, or the reward versus the risk, or whatever. It's there.
Yeah, and like you said, when it comes to people at home, they're like they don't know who he is, so you're gonna get him almost for free probably in some drafts.
There'll be some leagues where you draft Hayden Hurst and people are going to make fun of you, like, who'd you draft? And then all of a sudden he can come out and have this, crazy good year.
That's my favorite.
Like Dre said, like the Darren Waller of this year. And then
how good does that feel?
Now you're laughing that you drafted him.
How good does that feel when people are like, who is that? And then later on, you're
That's
like,
who it
that's
is,
who it is.
Yeah.
Week 2, they're like,
And tight end, that's a position.
why isn't this guy on the
Julius
waiver
Thomas.
wire?
And worst case scenario, if he's just average, you didn't burn any capital, so it's not like it's a waste pick.
Drop his ass.
And that's the key to business. You got to buy low and sell high.
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next team here, baby. We got Tom
Fucking
Brady, baby.
bro, we segued that so nice, dude. We didn't even rehearse that.
Rehearse it.
Not once.
Not once. So Tom Brady,
Fade
if
Hayden
you
Hurst.
live under a rock, you don't know that Tom Brady is now on the Buccaneers. I honestly never thought I would see Tom Brady play for a different team, but I was wrong. He's now with the Bucks. He's got his boy Gronk over there. Got a ton of weapons. Yeah, what do you guys think? You drafting Tom Brady this year? I'm gonna pass.
No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm gonna pass that to Chirs.
I'll pass. I did write a lot of Tom Brady stats here.
Do your thing.
It's weird because some of them are good, but then I'm like, some of them are bad. I don't know. The last 5 years, Tom Brady is obviously getting older. He's 40-something years old. The last 5 seasons, he has 2 top 3 finishes, but then he has 3 finishes outside the top 12 for quarterbacks. So he can go either way of the spectrum. Obviously, in this Arians offense, with the weapons he has, you would like to think it'll be, towards the top 3 side. I think he's going to be overdrafted, though, for where he is. Obviously, it's Tom Brady. They're thinking, the system and all that stuff like that. But just some crazy numbers I saw here. Pretty much him and Jameis Winston's stats were kind of identical in a sense outside of the passing yardage. Both threw over 600 pass attempts. But it's crazy that Jameis Winston had an 8.2 yard average, and Tom Brady only a 6.6 yard average for the pass attempt. That was actually 36th ranked in the entire NFL, so not very good. Obviously, it could be a system of McDaniel's system, kind of a dink and dunk, and then the Arians offense is the vertical stretching pass. But an 88 passer rating for Tom Brady was 24th best. That's not really good when you're thinking about Tom Brady being as good as he is. And then the completion percentage is what really got me here. Him and Jameis Winston actually had this same exact completion percentage. It was like 61%. So it's not like Brady was like this like magical guy last year in New England, and then now all of a sudden he's coming over and taking over the reins. Like the numbers compared to him and Jameis outside of the interceptions, and Jameis had more yardage, obviously.
So he had a higher completion percentage than Jameis did, technically.
I guess if you want to say more yardage, not completion percentage.
I'm talking about because he had so many picks.
Oh, okay,
he completed to the other team too.
So I'm a little torn here. I don't think I'm gonna have any Tom Brady shares just because I'm a Tom Brady hater. And I think he was gonna go a lot higher than for my blood. And plus you get quarterbacks. You get quarterbacks like Matt Ryan, Stafford, all these other late round quarterbacks that I'd be willing to take a shot on.
Yeah, I'll give an unbiased. I'm the only one who just like I said, I play with no emotion. So I'll just go with that.
As a Dolphin fan, he hates Brady.
But I pull emotion away from it. I don't give a fuck who you play for. I'm trying to
win.
Yeah, trying to win. We got to be honest. So Tom Brady, who were his weapons last year? Julian Edelman, and that was about it. I mean, so I'm kind of taking his last year with a little bit of like he didn't really have shit to work with. Now you give him the Mike Evans, the Chris Godwin, Gronk and OJ Howard, and even they drafted what's his name too?
Deshaun Vaughn.
Yeah, then they drafted another receiver too.
Tyler Johnson.
Oh, Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, so they drafted and they have
made the Big Ten All-Decade team.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't had the type of weapons he has in Tampa Bay, and I can't remember in New England. If you want to just go like off of weapons, like when's the last time he had that? Overall, when's the last time it's been that good? It hasn't been there. I mean, they had, and I think the Bucks had like a top 7 line last year, and the Patriots were like, I think they were actually one of the worst they've been in a long time. They weren't like bottom 5, but they weren't like the Patriots line that's usually like a top 5. So, Bruce Arians in the system. To me, it's kind of, I was just thinking right before this podcast, so I was like, when it comes down to the red zone, who are they going to trust? Tom Brady to throw the ball in the red zone or Ronald Jones? I think it's going to be Tom Brady. If when he's around, if he's going to get 600 pass attempts roughly and he throws for his career 5.4 touchdown percentage, which is highly possible, that's about 34 touchdowns. That's a top 8 quarterback. So if that happens, he's going to be worth where he's going on ADP. Now, to Tyler's point, I think your home leaguers might be taking him a lot higher than that. Yeah. So I don't think that'll happen. But if it's an ADP type of thing where he's going in the QB 9, 10, 11 range, I'd actually rather have him than Matt Ryan, to be honest. I think this year in particular, he offers more upside with the touchdowns and all that. And just the lack of, real running game red zone threat. And just the complement of weapons. So, I mean, would it surprise me if he threw for 35 touchdowns in Tampa Bay this year? No, it wouldn't. So, like I said, I think this year in particular, his touchdown upside is higher than it's been in a long time. I think just touching on the positive side of this.
No, yeah. I think you're right. It's like how much of, obviously they have the weapons with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and it's way more weapons. But it's like Jameis Winston's also a very different quarterback than Tom Brady. So, I just don't know how that whole system's going to work with Tom Brady. I don't know. Yeah, but you're right though.
It comes down to points scored, and do you think the offense is going to be how high of a scoring offense do you think they're going to be? If you think they're going to finish in the top 10 scoring, and Brady's going to kind of the passing game is going to be more used in the red zone than the running game, then Brady's going to have a good year. If you think they're going to be an average scoring offense, it's kind of irrelevant if whether it's him or Jameis. It comes down to points scored. And how the offense moves the ball. So it's if you kind of think it's going to be more of a balanced team, then he's not going to be worth his draft capital. And if that's the case, that happens. But if it's going to be 600 pass attempt Brady, this is a top 8 scoring offense, and he's the one in the red zone, you're going to probably be pretty happy with on a almost week to week basis with Brady because he doesn't rush the ball. So if there's weeks where they run the ball on once or twice, it could affect him like those weeks. But
yeah, like I said, it's just tough because there's like some good things and there's some bad things. He's tough to gauge, to me, to be honest.
And
but
he could just go old out of nowhere.
Yeah, but I mean, he did have 101 red zone pass attempts last year. That was the most in the NFL. So I mean, obviously, I like to think that this offense is going to be good. A lot of red zone attempts, a lot of red zone drives for this Buccaneers offense. But the number that was shocking for me was the 15th best red zone completion percentage. I mean, when you're thinking about Brady being inside the 20, you think of Brady being the guy who's just he's almost automatic. Moving the chains, getting in the end zone, but 15th best red zone completion percentage. Obviously, the weapons are going to make a big difference. You get Gronk back. You have Mike Evans, Godwin, all this stuff. It's just crazy. Like, I mean, do you think this is a scenario where this defense was one of the better run defenses? Obviously the secondary was pretty bad, and then Jameis, throwing pick six every game to start them out, at a 7-0 deficit. Do you think that like there could be a scenario where, you know, they're in control and like they take the lead and they're kind of, you know, maybe they don't have to throw as much compared to last year with Jameis, so maybe that Brady doesn't have to throw the ball 600 times, maybe he only throws the ball 500, you know, times, give or take.
Yeah, especially if they're ahead. I mean,
Arians is always 550. This offense isn't going
just
500.
airing it out. I mean, pushing the pedal, gas pedal.
It's,
you know.
I see a hard 550 would be low, 540 because that's still like league average.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I'm just going. Yeah, I mean, if they're smacking teams, I don't see why he would waste him, especially if they're good. But I mean, yeah, 550, and you break that down, how many that is per game. But I mean, that's not a crazy amount. I mean, I feel like they're just trying to win. They don't give a fuck how they win this year. So I feel like, you know, Arians is trying to win. He's, you know, he sat out a few years, and Brady's, you know, obviously going there to win, got his boy. So I think they're going to do whatever it takes to win. I don't think they're going to be worried about Brady's numbers, which is why I'm not really going to touch him.
But do you think Brady's worried about his numbers? Because he's almost like, I don't play this narrative that much, but I know some people do. He's like, you know what, fuck you, Patriots. Like,
I think he
I'm
wants
going
to
go
win.
out there and be like,
Yeah,
40 touchdowns.
I think the only
type of
number
Brady.
he cares about is 7.
Yeah, I think he's
7
trying to win a
rings.
Super Bowl. Yeah,
That's
I think if he
that's
goes,
100%.
if he wins, he's trying to win games and get to the Super Bowl. I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take him in fantasy. But maybe take him as your second QB
It'll be fun.
in case
It'll
he
be
does
fun to
do
watch,
well.
though. It'll be fun because, like you said, he hasn't had this type of like arsenal, you know, since maybe Randy Moss and Wes Welker back in the day.
Yeah,
Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah,
Arsenal with Hernandez, huh?
all right. Aaron's, that's kind
All right,
of
let's move
Aaron's
on to-
arsenal. That's fucked
Let's
up.
move on to we had our special guest Justin on. He was obsessed with this guy, Ronald Jones. He told us that he believed Ronald Jones would be a top 5 running back.
I hope Devontae Freeman goes to the Bucks.
And this is why you don't do drugs, kids.
Stay off drugs. I fuck with Rojo, but that's wild.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah,
but
so
Wait, what did you
Rojo,
say, top 10?
he did.
Top 5.
Yeah, he
Top 5,
finished
top 5.
RB 25 in PPR, RB 26 in half point PPR. Dre, I know you had some really good numbers on Ronald Jones when we went over him.
Yeah,
in a second. I think we were talking about the Keyshawn Vaughn situation.
Yeah. I rewrote
you
them.
USC guy, so
Well, first of all, he only has 195 career carries in 2 years. And the first thing I wrote right here, it says he's going into his 3rd year and is still younger than Keyshawn Vaughn, who's a rookie, which is wild.
He just turned like 19, right?
That's pretty crazy.
He got
though.
drafted at 20,
I know.
like 2021. So he's young. He's been, which is, I think, is amazing. In the 7 games that he got 12 or more carries, he averaged 14.1 half point fantasy, or 14.1 half point points per game. But he also had 5 games of 9 or less carries and 4 games of 6 or less, which that's just bad play calling. Like, Arians isn't going to do that. I mean, I feel like he's going to give his guys a shot. I mean, how could you have 4 carries or 4 games of 6 or less carries? Like, that's as a starting running back. Granted, Peyton Barber was there. He's gone. He's with the Redskins. They did get Keyshawn Vaughn, but I mean, he's fully entrenched in that offense. He's been there. Obviously, this is his 3rd year, so I think he's going to get. It's his job to lose, I would say. I mean, and his yards per carry. I mean, they went from 1.9 to 4.2. He went from 1 touchdown to 6. So he's going on the up and up, and he's only 22 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he still had last year 41 targets, 31 receptions. So where he's getting, you're drafting him, I think he's like RB 30-ish.
Yeah,
so he's going like in the
late.
RB3 range, which is pretty low. I actually think he's a value, especially
And he
if
finished at
Yeah.
RB2 basically.
Yeah, and especially if he can get into the, even if let's just say those receptions stay the same, but he gets around 215, 220 carries, and the point we were just bringing up, let's just say they are a little bit more, let's just say they do throw on
It's a game
540
script.
times, and the game script is, and it's like he's going to probably be the back that's out there on the field more often than not. So, I actually like Rojo. I think he's a value pick, and I think if you don't have early running backs and you go receivers, I think he's one of those running backs for sure. Week 1 he's playing, and you're going to have a starter out there.
Yeah.
If you go 1 running back and you go 3-4 receivers and you're getting deeper and you're like, shit, I don't have an RB2. I think Rojo is someone you target because you're going to get production with him. I actually think he has decent upside as well. Given the state of, I think they're a top 10 scoring offense as long as Brady doesn't just like fall off the age cliff and just look like a shell, like Peyton Manning did that year.
Manning did, yeah.
So I mean that's a possibility. So, but if not, I think he's going to be. I'm pegging him for 200 200 to 230 carries and probably another 30 receptions. So I don't think Keyshawn's taking that job. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but
I mean, for the narrative that he can't catch the ball, like you just said, 40-something targets, 31 receptions, only one drop. So, I mean, for what he had, I mean, you thinking guys, they say he can't catch, only one drop is still pretty good. 203 total touches. Peyton Barber had 170 total touches. So it's kind of like a full-on running back by committee over there. Peyton Barber is obviously not there anymore. And I was actually looking at the snap share percentage here, and 3 running backs had 30% or more snap share. It was Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber, and Dare
Ogunbowale.
Yeah. So Peyton Barber's obviously not there. They bring in Keyshawn Vaughn. I think he's obviously going to be utilized. You don't go out and draft him, just have him sit on the sideline. I'm not so sure if Dar is going to be utilized as much because, like I said, they were always trailing. Jameis was, gunslinging, always trying playing catch up. So I'd like to think there are more positive game scripts where Dar, Ogunbowale or whatever his fucking name is, I don't think he's going to be on the field as much, not 30% wise. And like Anthony said, I think we could really see Ronald Jones push the 240, 250-ish, total touches range. And in an offense that should be pretty good, more scoring opportunities, I do think he's a value as well. Like you said, I think he'll be a top 24 running back who can potentially sneak into the top 20 who's getting slept on. And then it was just kind of crazy. What you said, he had a 4.2 yards per carry. He actually faced the 8th highest stacked box rate at 31%. And then Peyton Barber faced the 3rd highest stacks box rate. I would like to think with Brady at the helm, I don't think they're going to stack the box on them as much, especially getting a guy like Gronk. You have Godwin, Evans. So if they can really open the field, I think it's only going to open the lanes for Ronald Jones. And like I said, if he could do it at 4.2 yards per carry, with the high stack box rate, I think it can only be just as good, if not better, opening up the field.
Yeah, and he, if I remember, he's got some breakaway speed. He had like a 4.3 roughly combine. He had some I know he had some big rush plays too. One thing I kind of just thinking about too as well. This is comes down to sometimes quarterback tendencies. Tom Brady's kind of always utilized the running backs, whether it's been James White at Burkhead. I'm not calling him that, but he's shown a tendency to use the running back. That's why, even though, we just to go over to the Colts for a second, we have a 3-man committee there, but if Jonathan Taylor's going to see a certain amount of snaps, Phillip Rivers is going to throw the ball to him because Phillip Rivers just does that. He analyzes the defense and throws it to the running backs and gets them in space. And I think Tom Brady does some of that too as well, which could potentially even lead to more receptions than we're kind of anticipating if he's on the field a lot more.
Yeah. Just one more thing. Or go ahead, Mike. No, Mike. You're going.
Yeah, baby girl.
No, I was just going to say Tom Brady is definitely the type of quarterback too that he just plays with whoever is going to make the play happen, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see how if Ronald Jones connects with him at all during camp or whatnot.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And I mean, over 10 yards of receptions, that's not low by any means. That's probably that's up there. So he was making some plays when he got the opportunity. Maybe he just has a limited route tree, and that's what they kind of mean is maybe he can only run a certain amount of routes, and he's only good at a certain amount of things, and they want more out of him. We want you to be able to do this. We want you to be able to split out, and he can't do that. So maybe that's why they're down on him in that aspect.
Yeah, no, just one more. So I knew he was working on his his route tree. So Jenny Lane from ESPN said he's preparing for the possibility of a larger workload, focusing on his pass catching. He got drafted at 204, 205 pounds roughly. They're saying he's up to 225 pounds. Okay. So he's been bulking up. Big bud. He's just been lifting and working on his pass catching skills. He says he could lose ground in a hurry if he fails to impress.
Big bud.
But he's bulked up and he's just been working on pass catching. So 225, 23 years old, third year in the league.
That'd be good for goal line. He's not this, I don't want to say small, but to put on 20 pounds, he's pretty much beefing up. It makes me a little more secure that, they're willing to maybe throw him out there in the goal line situation.
It's like me during quarantine.
And I try to throw in the dynasty aspect. He's a good buy low for dynasty right now. Because, 2 years, the Bucks offense will probably have their owners asking for a little bit more because they're he's on the Bucks now, But he's still, you can offer a back-end first round for dynasty for next year. You can get him at a pretty decent price just because he hasn't done anything yet. And he can definitely outplay his ADP this year and help your team out.
And you're kind of saying go after him. Are you thinking go after him now, while his price is probably low?
Yeah, this is the lowest.
If he hits in the season, you're not going to be able to get him in Dynasty the same way you would now, right?
Yeah, because if he starts balling for 3-4 weeks, it's going to be hard pressed for an owner to let go of him, because he's so young. They're going to ask for something crazy, So if just players a target, especially because he's still young, especially in Dynasty. He can, if he turns out to be good, he can play for another at least 5 years. And
for sure.
That's great for especially for running backs.
Yeah.
So.
Even the counselor over there.
Yeah, it's fucked. In 3 years in, he had 25. That's wild.
We got next, Mike.
So we're just going to briefly touch on, we got the rookie, Keyshawn Vaughn, does get drafted, so there's some people believing in him. We looked at the tape. You guys aren't big fans of Keyshawn Vaughn coming out of Vanderbilt rookie year. What do you guys think?
I thought he had a cool running back name. Keyshawn Vaughn sounded kind of cool, but he old, man.
So you should make a list of your top 12
football player names.
Yeah,
Patrick Willis is one probably, but yeah, I will come up with a list. Dude, that's a good name.
I don't know. I'm not going to say much on Keyshawn Vaughn except for the tape was unimpressive. There's no rookie mini camps, no preseason games. So I think it's Ronald Jones' backfield to lose. Keyshawn Vaughn will probably get some type of work, but I don't think too much. Listen to the episode we did where we went over some rookie busts or rookies that we weren't big on.
Yeah, he's there.
He's there. I went over everything.
I'll throw it in the description. I'll write it down right now.
Just for the sake of saying something good, I feel like the only niche you could have is he's like a really big downhill runner. So I could see them using him to like milk the clock, when they're trying to get those, those tough yards just to keep the chains moving. Because that's one thing he does do well, because he doesn't break long runs. My bad. But he can get you those tough, 4-yard runs. He's aggressive, doesn't look to run out of bounds.
Those tough runs.
Yeah, so I could see that. But other than that, yeah. I'm trying to find,
those
Keyshawn Vaughn, he's built forward tough.
Yeah. Those big boy runs inside.
Yeah,
he ain't no Chevrolet. All right, we can.
And he's older than Ronald Jones. So.
But yeah, I'll put in the description down below the episode we talked about that. Or I think I even clipped some stuff we talked about Keyshawn Vaughn. But yeah, we can move on to the receivers. We got Chris Godwin, who is truly a god who was able to win you your fantasy league last year. Yeah, I'm fucking great with words.
I like it. You might be a god too.
Yes,
I am. You got a lot over there. You go first.
But obviously, Chris Godwin, he good. What else you got to say?
All right, next. No, I'm kidding.
That's my guy.
I mean, Godwin came out of nowhere. You're saying Ridley's going to be this year's Godwin. I mean, that's why I said he came out of nowhere, finished as wide receiver 2 and half point and full point PPR. He's in a contract year, so I think he's about to get paid. He'll be seeing these 12, 15 plus million. One thing I just thought was kind of interesting is that he outsnapped Mike Evans in every single game but one. And what was it? I think he had 100 more or 92 more routes ran than Mike Evans. Mike Evans obviously missed one game, but still 92 more routes. So I think, who's the main guy in this offense? It's not Mike Evans. It's Godwin. And then just some numbers that actually I'm pretty high on Godwin, or I think he can sustain it is, second most slot yards last year for Chris Godwin. They get Brady from the Patriots. Obviously, he's known him and Edelman have that connection. Edelman had 101 slot targets last year. That was the most in the NFL. Godwin lined up in the slot 64% of the time. So, I mean, I think if, there's one guy who's going to get heavily targeted, obviously it's going to be Godwin in the slot.
Obviously.
Before I even start, first of all, he's going to win because he gave Tom Brady his number for free. He gave him number 12. Brady fucks with him inherently.
Well, I mean,
he has a pretty good name.
That's I know.
I'm just saying.
Chris Godwin's good, but it's okay, dude. If Tom Brady came on my team, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, he could have got something from him. He was just like, you know what, here, Tom, just here, give me the ball.
Brady was like, hey, let me get that number, let me get that jersey, and Godwin was like,
I was like, oh, say less.
He goes, here, Tom, let me pass you my jersey. Here, pass this to you. He passed it to him. That's what he did. He's like, you see what I'm putting down? He's like, for sure. All right, now for real. So.
Do you hear the language I'm speaking?
So Mike Evans. So Chris Godwin only had 4 more targets than Mike Evans, but he had 21 more catches than he did. And he missed the last 2 games of the season, and he still finished first in the NFL in catches of 20 plus yards with 25. He was second in the NFL in yak with 577 yards. Michael Thomas was first, beat him by 10 yards. And he was third in the NFL with the most yak per reception with 6.7. Only, what's funny is 2 rookies led the NFL in that. A.J. Brown was first, Deebo Samuel was second. So he was top 3 in all those categories, missing 2 games. So I'd be hard pressed to say he couldn't have. He for sure would have beat Michael Thomas. I mean, 10 yards, get the fuck out of here. And yards, Yak, I don't know, but he for sure would have been number one in he would have been one in yards or catches of 20 plus yards and Yak, which means, and he lines up in the slot, so you can put him all over the field. I mean, he's not one of those guys where, if corners want to travel with you, he's kind of, it's tough. He's going to make the team better if that does happen. If like they play the Patriots and Stephon Gilmore does want to follow him around, he's going to have to go to the slot. He's going to have to go to the outside because he lines up. It's like 50-50. I mean, he's like 60-40 probably.
Yeah, 64% of the time he lined up in the slot.
Oh, there you go. So 60. Yeah. There you go.
And he can win on the outside. He's been doing it for. I mean, he's someone I had a lot of. And 2 years ago, I had him in a lot of leagues, and just watching him on the field, it's like he would win on the outside and get a score on the outside as well. So, not a lot of slot receivers generally outside of probably Cooper Kupp have, double-digit touchdown upside. So you like to see that from a guy who, is essentially like saying he's a slot, but he has double-digit touchdown. He probably would have scored 10 touchdowns last year if he played the last 3 games. So he's had 9 last year. So, I love Godwin. He's my number 5 receiver. So
I had him at 6.
Yeah. Hard to bring down, too, when he catches the ball. His 17 forced missed tackles were the 3rd most for wide receivers. So when he catches it, he's a playmaker.
Yeah. And I was surprised to hear that he was 2nd in the NFL in yak. That's 577 yards. I mean, that's almost half his yards. What do you have? No, a little less. Yeah, like 40%. But that's impressive. So he can catch it. He's stretching the field. He's making the defense miss when he gets the ball.
It was not a flop.
Yeah. Draft Chris Godwin.
Okay, we can move on to the next receiver here. We got his boy Mike Evans, lucky number 13. Mike Evans has been a guy that used to get drafted in the first round. I think is he getting drafted in 2nd/3rd round now?
He's like on the
turn pick. Yeah.
2nd round.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I mean, if you like him, you like him.
Yeah. I mean, big guy. Obviously, you said you think because Tom Brady doesn't throw down the field as much, and you think Chris Godwin's going to be slot targeted more in the slot. Tyler, do you expecting a downgrade in Mike Evans this year, or how do you feel?
I think he's a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. I think people are going to be jumping on the gun. Mike Evans. But like I said, I think this is a different offense with Brady at the helm, and they're not going to be chasing every single game. Brady's not going to come out and throw a pick 6 on the first drive or the first attempt. But it was just crazy. Before getting hurt, Mike Evans, he actually was the wide receiver 5 in PPR, wide receiver 3 in half-point PPR. And then he's utilized in the end zone. His 15 end zone targets were tied 2nd most. So, that touchdown upside is always there. And I think that's what will hold him close to like that wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, like borderline. He does have that high touchdown upside. I just don't if there's one of the two, I'm taking Godwin hands down every single time. But I do think Mike Evans is going to be drafted a lot higher than, some of these other receivers who could potentially see, only 118 targets last year for Mike Evans. But you're going to see guys like Robert Woods, a Cooper Kupp, Thielen, just some names off the top of my head, even a Calvin Ridley, who I think will out-target and, potentially, outscore Mike Evans. But these guys are going to be being drafted after Mike Evans.
Yeah, he did miss 3 games, so he would have probably been in the 130s last year. Kind of, pretty much everything in line with everything you said. I think he's probably going to be the 2 on this offense, but he's still going to get 120, 130 targets. To me, it comes down to, if Brady does, we just touched on this a minute ago. If Brady throws for around 30 to 35 touchdowns, I think he's going to end up being a wide receiver 1 because he'll probably be around 9. Maybe more touchdowns. If Brady throws more like 22, 23, he's probably going to be a wide receiver 2. But, pretty good ceiling and I still think he has a pretty good floor as well. Mike Evans isn't going to go away. He's going to get you probably 1,000 yards. He's still going to get you, on a worst-case scenario, 6-7 touchdowns and, 70 catches. So, safe floor. But I'm not taking him in the top, 9 where he's going, top 8, I'll sit back and get a receiver a little bit later. But he does, have double-digit touchdown upside. Like I said, if things hit right with this offense and Brady throws for 30-plus touchdowns, Mike Evans will probably finish in the top 12 as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm trying to figure out in which way to deliver these numbers. So I'm going to give you guys some Godwin, just regular football Godwin Evans stats. So Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are the third pair of teammates in NFL history to average at least 89 receiving yards per game ever. Mike Evans ranked 4th in yards per game. Chris Godwin finished 2nd. So they had 2 top 4 in that regard. And they're the only teammates ever to each have 150-yard receiving games apiece in one season. And Mike Evans actually had 3 of 180. And I know you're wondering what the fuck does that have to do with fantasy. That's never
That's
happened.
exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly, right?
I was actually thinking the same thing.
Perfect. So that's never happened.
Perfect.
So for things that have never happened, it's hard to replicate that. So you got to pick which one you like more, basically. Like, that was a freak season is what I'm saying. I mean, it's tough to have 2 guys be top 5 in all those numbers. And on top of that, Mike Evans is coming off of a career low in targets and in receptions. So, and he still finished 8 in standard and 15 in PPR. So I feel like he's the one who's going to have the regression because, like I said, he had 4 less targets than Godwin, but 21 less catches. And and Evans is more of just a outside receiver. He hasn't really, thrown that into his arsenal as far as like being a slot guy. He's just outside. And he is a big boy. What's crazy is he's coming off of back-to-back over 17 yards per reception back-to-back seasons. So for a guy who's that big, I mean, he gets it done downfield also. But I feel like in standard leagues, he's going to be a top 8 in standard. But in PPR or half point, Godwin's, I think, is a way to go. Just because Mike Evans can still stretch the field and get you those big catches. But don't expect 2 top 4 in that regard anymore. That was like something crazy what we saw last year. So that's why I wanted to throw those out. But yeah, I mean, he does have 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start a career. Only him and Randy Moss are the only players that do that. So he gets the job done regardless.
Him and who?
Randy Moss.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
The Moss.
Yeah,
and I mean, Jameis did throw for over 5,000 yards, and he threw for, I don't know how many times he threw, like 690.
Yeah,
stupid.
That boy was dropping back.
636, I think it was.
Yeah, so, I mean, Brady will throw for less yards and less attempts because they're not going to have to throw as much.
I meant shoulder.
So that's where, like I said, even though he was on pace for 130, like in the 130s, so it would have been par for the course.
Yeah, for sure.
Those totals are coming down a little bit, so if they do, he might be more of a 125 type of guy.
Yeah, so get you 65 catches.
Yeah, so that's where...
It's like that 21 Savage song. He's like, how many passes you throw? A lot.
Yeah. And don't forget, Chris,
how many yards did you throw? A lot.
How many
picks did you throw? A lot.
Well, let's say this. So with obviously with Jameis and his gunslinging,
we need to sound clip that too.
We've seen a lot of double-digit 10+ target games for Mike Evans. Do you think that's a scenario where we see all those, on occasion with Mike Evans, or do you think he's more on like the 7 to 8 type target per game now?
I think you could still see him because from style of play,
obviously you're bringing in a guy like Gronk as well too.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to Rojo maybe a little more in the game.
Let's just use the
OJ Howard still.
The Edelman. Let's just say Chris Godwin's Edelman for just the sake of this point. Mike Evans and Josh Gordon. When you go to depth of target, they're very similar type of players. They're downfield type of guys, usually 15+ type of yards per reception. He still had games where Josh Gordon was targeted 10, 12 times. This is only a 2 year ago. Could the arm strength have gone down? And then yes, 100%. So, but I still think
the targets were there. Yeah, the
targets were still there, and he was still pushing the ball to Josh Gordon. Like on these deeper type of targets, when I'm saying deeper, 15, 20-yard type of targets. I'm not saying he's throwing a 50-yard bomb every play, but where he operates in those deeper type of targets, I think he can still get that to Mike Evans. And maybe sometimes the team tries to take away Chris Godwin. Like, we're not going to let you beat us with Chris Godwin, and it opens it up for Mike Evans, and that's going to probably happen in some weeks.
For sure.
I think the difference, before you go on, I think the difference between Brady and Jameis, obviously other than the rings and a bunch of other shit, I think Brady's able to like diagnose and dissect like a mismatch immediately, like on the field. Like he's like, that dude doesn't stand a chance against him, and he'll fucking go at you all game until you change it. So I think that's the difference. So where Jameis, he just doesn't think like that.
No.
So I feel like that's going to help Godwin as far as being able to move around. I think it's going to help everybody because I think Brady's ability to diagnose like that is going to help everybody. So that's going to help him in that regard. So I think that like those off-target passes that Jameis was just throwing around, I don't think Brady's going to be that like erratic as far as like passing it. So, they might be getting 6-7 yard slants, but at least he's getting the ball in their hands. So
100%.
100%.
200%.
100%, baby.
Jump into the Gronk spike or what?
Gronk spike.
I mean, I don't have. He's
So Gronk comes out of retirement. He's pretty much on a 1-year deal. The thing that I thought was pretty interesting
Tell him this
when
shit.
really looking at this is so he signed a 1-year, $9 million contract, and which makes him the second highest paid tight end next year. So it's hard to really gauge Gronk for me. Like I was like, okay, I don't know, you have weapons like Godwin, Evans. You still have O.J. Howard. I mean, but this is Brady's boy, and they have the rapport, they have the connection, And I'm thinking like, all right, if I join another team, but and I'm getting all these new players, but then I bring one of you guys with me. Obviously, you're my boy, so we're gonna have that rapport and that connection. I'm probably gonna look towards you, especially when we get in the red zone. We've seen Brady and Gronk when they get close to the red zone, so the touchdown upside's there. But I mean, you're not just paying him $9 million to just sit on the sideline or not be utilized, especially with how ineffective O.J. Howard was last year, probably the biggest bust. So I do think Gronk has got some good value. Let me just throw this at you guys real quick, this question. So 55 receptions, 650 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Do you think that's like a possibility that he could get that, Gronk?
I mean, yeah, I think I had him at like 7. So
Yeah.
55 receptions, 650 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
I just feel like Gronk's gonna have at least one game of 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. So if he puts up
At
that
least
stat line or similar to the stat line, that was good enough to be tight end 9 last year in half point and full point PPR.
Then lock it in.
So I think
Couch.
when we did the early tight end rankings, I think Dre was the only one who had Gronk ranked. I think you had him at like 6 or 7.
Seven,
Me and Anthony did not. He's definitely moved up into my top 12, especially because we go, I've found the notion of if you can get 5 touchdowns, that's usually good enough to be a top 12 tight end just with the touchdown upside of 5 alone. So, yeah, I do like Gronk. So, I'm not sure what his ADP is. I think he's another one of those guys where he's a home name.
For sure.
And, he's probably going to go higher than my liking. But, at some point, if I'm in the draft and, he slips, and I'm pretty, solid across the board in my, my lineup, I wouldn't be minded taking a shot at Gronk.
This is the home league thing I'm thinking is going to happen is Travis Kelce's going to come off the board, then George Kittle, and then Gronkowski's going to come off.
Oh, like in that order?
Yeah, in like home.
It could
Yeah.
happen.
I just feel like I could see that happening. Yeah.
Remember, I did in that mock draft for fun. I took Gronk in like the 5th round. I was like, I'm gonna draft like a home leaguer.
Yeah, I mean,
I took Gronk in the 5th just to like play around.
I mean, Brady for sure. Brady was like, "Hey, Gronk, you trying to come to Tampa?" He's like, "Fuck it, sure." So
Well,
he hit him, but he wants him there.
Fuck
so.
it, send it in.
Here's
He
kind
got
of
him out of retirement. I mean, fuck. He's gonna use him. You're not gonna get a guy out of retirement to not. That was part of my logic. Like you're gonna use him. Sorry, O.J. Howard.
He does.
My bad, but Gronk's better than you.
I will say Gronk he screws up defenses too.
Yeah,
Like
dude,
when
you
have to.
have to account for him.
because he
Yeah.
smells like Tide, fucking
Yeah,
Tide
'cause he
pods. And
makes
you're
the
like,
whole
dude, what is
teams-
that smell? Your eyes start to water, and then they say, it's a touchdown, Gronk spike.
And dude, imagine
Like your face.
Dude, imagine if he's healthy though. Like if he goes back
It
to
just
Gronk from a
smells
couple
so good.
years ago.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
I mean,
dude,
he's not
he
old,
needs-
bro.
He might have got a hold of Elon
Yeah,
and use
dude,
that
then
$9
Randy
million to
Moss
Elon.
comes
Make me
back.
bionic.
Dude, I mean, we just saw T.O. run a 4.40 at 47 years old. So
Who, T.O.?
yeah, they said he ran like a 4.42 or 4.43 at 46. So
I mean,
anything is possible.
I get the narrative of Gronk. I probably won't be taking much of him. I don't think he's playing 16 games. So,
Yeah, probably not.
I know those. Here's a question I kind of have with that, Tyler. The 5 touchdowns. Do you think this is possibly a year where 5 touchdowns doesn't do it? Because I think the tight end position actually has more playmakers this year than they have.
Could
in the
be
past.
6. I would say 6. And I'm not
I
even
mean,
being
you
a
can go
dick.
all the way down. I'm just looking at tight ends. Going down into the, Hayden, Hurst, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, Smith, Hawkinson, Goddard. I mean, I'm 17 deep. You can even get down to some of these guys like Greg Olsen who could have some touchdown upside. I mean, there could be 15 plus guys who have potential to, go over 5-6 touchdowns. Yeah, so just for me, it's just he hasn't looked the same. I know it's his boy and he's gonna get playing time and they're gonna use him, but I just don't. I'm not taking him in the top 10 if he's not. I think the chance of him playing 16 is very slim.
Can you peg him with top 12?
He's only played one season where he played, or he's only had one season where he's played all 16 games. So
If you
that's
ta-
obviously you
Yeah.
got to weigh that into for sure.
If you tell me he's playing 14, I'll draft him in the top 12, but you can't guarantee that.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna
it's
say
like-
12. I'll take 12, but as long as he's good for the playoff, my fantasy
Yeah.
playoffs.
I mean, here's kind of the point I was making to where Brady is. I mean, like low key, I was listening to us talk, and we love Godwin. you guys are pretty big on Gronkowski, and then you're pretty high on Mike Evans. So it's like you can't not like Brady's upside if you like all three of those guys. So it's like either you have to lower your expectations. I'm just saying this as a whole when you're thinking about the offense. Either you can't like all three of those guys and not like Brady, because if you do, you have to like Brady because Brady has to provide touchdowns for all three of those guys.
Sure.
Or you have to dislike one of them completely in order for that to kind of work out. Just how the cookie crumbles. With the chocolate chips and the dips and the hips.
And the
I'm still in the standard league. So in the standard league, I'll probably go for Evans. In a half point, I'd be more pressed for Godwin. And then Gronk's pretty much in between. I mean,
he bonks.
Just that's where my head space is at because Godwin can get you those 8 or 9 catches.
I do want to see him do the Gronk spike in a different uniform.
I just hope he comes out in balls, but whatever.
We touching on the next guy.
We're gonna briefly touch on this guy. All right, don't be mad because I know we hate this guy's name. It's OJ Howard.
Next.
Y'all go ahead. And he caught that foul
ball. It's just crazy
last year.
though because like I just said, Gronk is the second highest paid tight end. OJ Howard is the 26th highest paid tight end, and they've already extended him to his 5th-year option. So he's gonna be there for the next 2 years. OJ Howard. So I just don't know what it is. They don't want to get rid of him. I don't know why they don't try to trade him. I don't know if it was true or not. I think you might have told me this, Anthony, that the Patriots offered them like 2 first-round draft picks or something like that, or someone offered them 2 first-round draft picks for OJ Howard. I don't know how
I read
that's
something
true
the
or not,
Patriots offered something back then for him. I don't know if it was 2 firsts, but it was something. It might have been a first and something else.
Yeah,
I can't
even
remember.
a first. It's like send it.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots
send it in.
The Patriots get to do what they always do and somehow just make players that are not doing that well very well.
He's basically a handcuff that you're not drafting.
He's dead to me after last year.
Yeah, he's
and even then, it's like if Gronk does go down, you pick him up. You don't start him,
he's
but
still dead to me.
It's just interesting. I mean, it's just interesting after last year. We were hyped on OJ Howard last year.
I think we spent too much time on OJ Howard.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. We're going to talk Panthers here. We're talking the new quarterback, no longer Cam Newton. Cam Newton travels up north. He goes to New England. Yeah. So now we got Teddy Bridgewater behind center.
Who'd win in a fight, a Patriot or a Panther? They get the musket.
If the Patriot is Mel Gibson, I'm gonna go with Mel Gibson.
They get the musket.
From the movie The Patriot. I'm gonna say Mel Gibson wins.
And the musket's only one shot though. I'm going the Panther.
Yeah, but have you ever seen The Patriot?
Yeah, dude. Have you ever seen a Panther?
Mel Gibson has an axe also, and he mucks them up.
And Heath Ledger was a Patriot too.
Oh yeah,
what was that movie Apocalypto? That Panther was fucking shit.
Anyways, let's talk about Teddy Bridgewater, Theodore Bridgewater.
Young Theo.
What do you guys think? He gets signed. He becomes a starting quarterback.
I don't like Teddy Bridgewater. I'll just keep it simple. Drew Brees goes down, so Teddy Bridgewater steps in for the Saints. Started weeks 2 through 7. I mean, you got Michael Thomas, who was a savage. Jared Cook, who was pretty good last year. I think Kamara was a little banged up, but I mean, it's still one of the better offenses in the NFL. And in those weeks 2 through 7, QB 20 during that stretch. I just don't like it. Under 250 yards in 4 of the 6 games. And I was just looking at like his career in terms of passing and stuff like that. A lot of games either had 0 or 1 passing touchdown. I just don't like that for my quarterback. So I do not like Teddy Bridgewater.
Do not.
I'm just gonna give you number. I'm indifferent about him. I don't really care too much for him, I guess is a better way to put it. But I did find some pretty cool numbers. So Teddy Bridgewater, with the Saints in the 9 games that he played, was it 9, right? 6 games, whatever the fuck he played.
He played 5. He played some games, but
okay.
A lot of games you come in and just kneel the ball.
So and this isn't all the games that he played for the Saints. He had a 6.2 yards intended air yards per attempt. Drew Brees was 6.4. This is last year. Then they broke down Teddy Bridgewater. If he would have started for the Saints all 16 games, his stat line would have been 3,856 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 picks, 68% completion percentage. Compare that to Drew Brees' first season with the Saints. 4,418 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, which is less, 11 interceptions, which is more, and 64% completion percentage, which is less. So Teddy Bridgewater actually would have been better if he would have played a whole season than Drew Brees did in his first full season with the Saints, which is crazy to think. Yeah. Obviously, it's a different league now. The most interesting stats I found that in the 9 games he did play, Teddy Bridgewater was 9th in true pass rating, 4th in true completion percentage, 2nd in play action completion percentage, and 4th in deep ball completion percentage. So those are sneaky good stats.
Yeah, those are pretty.
The Saints did have a pretty good O-line, so he did have time, obviously, for the play action to work. You do need a little bit more time. So we'll see how that goes with the Panthers. But, he does have good numbers as far as – and he's got athletes over there with the Panthers. You got DJ Moore, which we'll talk about. You got some guys that can stretch the field. So if he can just kind of stick to those numbers, he's more of an intriguing player. I'm rooting for the guy, but I just thought those numbers were interesting. So.
Yeah, he low-key had like a top – wasn't it like a top 10 like quarterback rating?
Yeah, he was up there.
It was like top and Kyle Allen was like a
bum.
Outside the top 30.
Yeah.
There's bench quarterbacks.
Kyle Allen led the
better than
NFL
him.
in turnover yards, too.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's drafting
Sack
Teddy
yards, sack
Bridgewater.
yards.
He could be a streamer on a given week just due to because I don't think the defense is going to be very good and they could be chasing in some games. Maybe we're saying, hey, it's a bye week, stream him. But
For sure.
you're not drafting Bridgewater, at this point.
Do you think
He did play with just to kind of so he does kind of know this offense a little bit because not necessarily offense, but he has some. What's his name? Brady. What's
Tom?
No, the coordinator. Joe Brady.
Joe Brady.
Joe Brady.
Yeah, Joe Brady.
He was when he was in New Orleans with Teddy Bridgewater for like a year, and he was kind of
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So he
LSU.
does have a little bit of like experience with him, so that does kind of help a little bit because this is a new offense and they're all learning it. So at least there's that when it comes to them learning the offense.
Yep. Yeah.
We jump into Christian McCaffrey. He's a savage.
Yeah,
draft
him.
Hey, is
Quote.
Teddy Bridgewater? Can he be? This year's Tannehill? Like how we've been talking. We need to do a segment on that. Like this year, next year.
I think Teddy Bridgewater
so.
is Alex Smith Jr.
So they're going to go to the playoffs and lose in the first round.
No, why don't I? Yeah,
And then-
not
and then-
Alex Smith with the not Alex Smith with Tyreek Hill and all these fucking players and Kareem Hunt. And
Oh,
Kelsey.
so you mean he's
It's
going to
like
have a
Alex
good?
Smith with the Niners?
Oh, so then he's going to have a good team. He's going to have a good team get hurt, and then his back is going to take him to the Super Bowl.
I said the player.
Hey, Loki, Alex Smith just got cleared for football.
Dude, yeah,
you see that?
sure.
Yeah, he almost lost his
I was-
leg.
Yeah, I was like,
You ever see a picture of his leg?
no.
Yeah,
Bro, it's
fucking-
gnarly.
yeah,
It's like
crazy.
his like leg was like as black as like this. It was
Yeah,
know,
it's
it's
like it's a lot of
infected.
graft. It's like skin graft and bone graft.
You know what's crazier than that? Have you ever seen what's his name? That tight end, Zach Miller.
Dude, I have not. Dude,
When he broke and his knee went backwards.
Bro, I watched that play live. And that shit was, bro. He caught that shit on the back. He caught it though.
He held on.
He
to
caught
it.
it on the back of the end zone.
Bro.
Dude, his leg was.
He said he blacked out, woke up in the hospital. Dude,
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Good for him,
put
When
it on the
I
highlights, I want to see it.
dude.
You wanna see it?
bro? It's
Oh
nasty.
my
dude.
God, it's
Save it.
bad.
Save it.
All right, so let's get to the next guy though. We got
Let's put it on. I'll
CMC.
watch it. Well,
Okay,
because
yeah.
everyone's seen CMC have highlights.
I mean CMC. I don't have much. I just put volume, efficiency, volume, touchdowns.
Dude, I just see green.
Success.
That's what I put.
Well, I will say, we posted is if Christian McCaffrey didn't score any touchdowns, he still would have been the number one running back last year. So that says it enough. I'm drafting him number one overall if I get that spot. In
There's only one
redraft
person I
leagues.
know who won't.
Yeah, it's
T.
No.
no, it's Justin. Justin drafted like Devontae
Yeah,
Adams.
I was thinking
What a
something
fuck.
else.
Last year I did not draft.
Yeah, I mean
Patrick Kamara.
I don't think
Oh,
he's
yeah, I
going to
didn't
pass
either.
400 touches. I know that he got a new OC, a new head coach. He led the NFL in targets per game, touchdowns, touches, and catches. I just don't see him getting 400. Doesn't mean he's not going to finish top, but
He's a savage.
He's a savage. Take
All
a
right,
We'll
look.
jump into DJ Moore. So for me,
DJ.
this is one of the hardest players for me to really gauge here. I'm not the biggest DJ Moore guy. So
go ahead.
can you guys sell me on DJ Moore?
Oh, bro, I got you. I got you. Ready?
So in third
Convince
grade,
me
Okay.
why I should draft DJ Moore.
Okay, so
Because you can get him in the 4th, 5th round. Let's start with that.
Bro, he played. Well, first, he's the easiest. I think he's the easiest receiver in this. I think in where he's going, he has the easiest path to 125 targets. I think he already had more than that last year.
Yeah.
He had 87 catches, 1,175 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was top 10 in receiving yards and catches with, and I'm writing this, with bum-ass Kyle Allen and a hurt-ass Cam Newton. So, I mean, he literally had 2 half-armed quarterbacks with a team that really couldn't figure anything out, and everyone knew he was a number 1 receiver, and he still finished top 10. This is what I thought was crazy. He had 11 games of 8 or more targets and 8 games of 10 or more targets. There ain't nobody getting drafted around him that's getting that. Where's he going? Like fourth? Sorry, I was looking at
fourth, fifth round, right?
Yeah,
Anthony?
8 games.
Yeah, that's where he's going.
8 games
I
of
took
10
him
or
in
more
the fifth
targets.
in one of our mocks. I was like, oh, you guys just gave me a boner.
Fucking insane. He was 8th.
No
I
extends.
don't even need it. I don't need
See,
Cialis.
he was 8th in the NFL
Got
in
DJ
yak.
Moore.
He was 8th in the NFL in yak with 392 yards, and he was 10th in the NFL in targets. I mean, and he still had 1,100. Yeah, he was top 10 in yards and catches, 8th in the NFL in yak, and 10th in targets. So he was top 10 in 4 major receiving categories, and he's only 23. Sign me up. He's gonna get 130 targets if he plays.
I'm pegging him for 150.
Yeah, I'm saying at the least 130
You think he gets
targets.
150 targets?
He was on
For
pace
sure.
for that last
He was,
year.
yeah, he didn't even
With the worst quarterback.
yeah.
Can we beer bet? I'll beer bet that he doesn't get 150. That's
150
a lot of targets. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, he went from 82 targets to 130 targets.
Yeah.
So you don't think he makes that jump?
All right, bridge of 140, then I'll do it.
I'll go under 140.
All right, I'll take that for
I'm,
sure.
I'm with Tyler. I'm with Tyler.
What? You're with Tyler?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I wrote a bunch on DJ Moore here. Some of them are good, and then some of them are bad. Like you said, top 10 in terms of targets, receiving yards, and receptions, stuff like that. But things I don't like seeing: 25th in red zone targets, 34th in end zone targets.
That's a bad offense, though.
Yeah. One thing I kind of saw too, and I don't know if this will correlate over to this year, but their defense was really bad. They gave up the second most points per game last year, but they went out and addressed that in the draft. Every single draft pick they had, they took a defensive player.
Yep.
They drafted one of the best defensive linemen from Auburn. They drafted another DN from Penn State. They drafted one of the better safeties in the second or third round. So they went full defense. They knew their defense was pretty bad here. So I'm not sure if they're going to be as bad. And then at the end of the day, I know Kyle Allen isn't anything great, but it all falls back on Teddy Bridgewater. Like we were just saying how, like, if we're high on Gronk, we're high on Evans and Godwin, then we have to, ipso facto, whatever, we have to like Brady. On the flip side, it's like if I'm not that high on Bridgewater, it's hard to really fall in love with a player when, if McCaffrey's going to see 100 and whatever targets, it's hard to really fall in love with one of these receivers here. And then the touchdown upside, I didn't like it. I mean, only 2 touchdowns on 82 targets and then only 4 on 135 targets. I mean, could that just be like a fluke? It could be, but then, I mean, sometimes these players, look at Julio, just for whatever reason, he can get targeted 170 times. He'll get you 6 touchdowns, which is crazy. But I don't know. I'm not going to say he's not going to be good. I'm not going to say he's going to be good. He's just personally, for me, one of the hardest players for me. I know you guys are pretty high on him, so that's why I was saying, like, sell him to me. Sell him to the guys who are listening to the podcast, because I think he could be a value. If he's going to the 4th, 5th round, you're getting a guy, like you said, who could be a solid number 2, who has wide receiver 1 upside. I mean, obviously, that's a steal if you're getting him in the 4th. Like you said, just giving you a boner if you get him in the 4th, 5th round. Because I think he's one of those Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett kind of guys where he doesn't have this sexy name, but he could produce like that.
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen his full potential. I mean, a guy who, I know he's very young as well, Jared. I'm sure you probably know his age.
23. Yeah, he's 23.
23.
Well, just 'cause
23 years old. I will.
No,
The reason I'm having a hard time putting him higher in my rankings is because of the touchdown question mark. We haven't seen the touchdowns jump up to even last year on 135 targets. If he would have had 6 or 7, I would have been like, okay, like, maybe we see a jump in touchdowns this year. That is my one concern with it. When it comes to the catch percentage, the yards after catch, I mean, he is showing some signs of being an elite type of wide receiver from that standpoint. Curtis Samuel had an opportunity, didn't do much. I mean, like I said, he missed a game last year, essentially missed 2. He played, I think, a couple snaps, and I pulled that out. If you would have taken him at a 14-game pace and take those 2 games out, he would have on a pace for 152 targets last year. Kyle Allen was like a 3,300-yard quarterback. The efficiency numbers were down. And it goes down to me, you go down to the Brady-style offense and what he's learned in New Orleans. What has Sean Payton always done is he's went out and he's targeted his number 1 wide receiver, and he's used his weapons. Who was his weapon? DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, yes. And I also think there's a chance that Christian McCaffrey doesn't get 150 targets, which was extremely high.
Yeah,
so if he gets
141.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I meant 140. So if it comes down to 120, even 115, that's potentially, a bigger target share that can go to the receiver position. And then there's also the other factor of that, the tight end position. Let me pull it up right here. They had 113 targets last year. They did lose Greg Olsen, who was 81 of those. So if the target share is going to stay the same, then you have to draft Ian Thomas. Yeah. Because he's going to see 90 to 100 targets, and there's Chris Monhertz behind him or someone like that, which I don't think that's the case. I think the tight end position is kind of not going to see a lot of targets because the the coaching staff will use their weapons. And, Ian Thomas, I think, is actually someone who could have some low-key value as maybe a 60 to 80 target guy potentially. But if that's coming down and the running backs come down, the receiver position has to see more. And I think DJ Moore is going to be the beneficiary of it. So, to me, he has an absolute floor of 130 of targets in the offense. I think he can push 150. So, and just like I said, we haven't seen the best of him yet. He's going into his third year, a little bit better quarterback play. So I love DJ Moore. Like I said, the one thing is the touchdowns. If they don't come, you're probably going to still be okay because he will be a PPR machine. He still will be that. But if they do come and he scores 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, and he sees 140 targets, he's going to be a steal for you in the 4th, 5th round where he's going.
Yeah, it's 13 forced missed tackles were 7th most for a wide receiver. So his ability to make things happen, like you said, the yak. I mean, you like seeing that for playmaker.
I got one more. I think this is probably one of the bigger numbers. So he finished 16 in PPR, which is almost a wide receiver 1, which is wild. So I did write bum ass Kyle Allen. I had one more stat I forgot. So Kyle Allen got sacked 3.7 times per game. He was like 5th or 6th in the NFL. He was sacked 47 times. He played 13 games. If he would have played the whole season, he would have been the most sacked QB in the NFL with 57, and he led the NFL in sack yardage lost. He led in 13 games. He had.
You're talking about Kyle Allen or Ryan Tannehill?
I'm talking about Kyle Allen.
Sound like Tannehill stats right here, dog.
No, this is
getting sacked every.
Yeah, 397 yards in 13 games. Russell Wilson was second, and he was 59 yards away, and he played 3 more games. So what I'm getting at is Kyle Allen holds on to the ball way too long, and Teddy Bridgewater is the complete opposite of that. He does quick reads and lets go of the ball quick, and that's where DJ Moore excels. He's a good guy off the line. He's quick. He can win off the slant routes. So, and he did all that with this bum ass quarterback. So I think those are terrible numbers, and he still was top 10 in receiving yards and catches. So I think last year was, I don't want to say a floor because that was really good, but that's what you can expect. I mean, to be honest, at 23 years old, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets you 90 next year. I mean, he had 87, so with 2 half-hurt quarterbacks. So Kyle Allen got cut. That's how bad he was. He played 13 games, and the Panthers were like, we don't even want you on the fucking team anymore.
Was he drafted that year or was it the year before?
I think he was a rookie last year.
Who?
Kyle Allen was a rookie last year.
Yeah.
And now he's on the Redskins. So just to give you an example, dude started 13 games, and they didn't even want to bring him back to the team. They're like, don't even come in the office. Fucking get out of here.
Don't even come into the
office. Don't get sacked on the way here.
Hey, yeah, go grab your stuff.
So
Get
so
out
I mean, the thing that got it was 8 targets or 8 games of 10 or more targets. That's
one
impressive.
thing I can say is, obviously new coordinator, and I know that the Matt Rule, his offense at Baylor, they like to spread it out, kind of like a Cliff Kingsbury-esque type of offense. So, I mean, if you're looking at it like that, like I said, again in the 4th, 5th round, I think you guys sold me on them. Good job, guys.
Hey,
so I pay you guys the big bucks.
So with the new coordinator change, what do you want to talk about Curtis Samuel then a little bit?
No, I'm good. We can talk about him later. I don't have anything. T does.
Yeah, we'll have the hashtag interesting stat. He ran 647 routes. That was actually the most in the entire NFL. He ran more routes than anybody in the entire NFL, which you would think that would be good. Like, I want the guy who ran more routes than anybody. I want him out there because more opportunities to catch the ball. Only targeted on 16% of those routes. So I don't know what it is. Not getting open, bad quarterback play, whatever it may be. I think he's still going to see, whatever it is. He's still going to be utilized. Like I said, they're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets here. So, you're going to have Curtis Samuel, Robby Anderson that they got from the Jets, and then DJ Moore out there as well. But, yeah, I think if there's one guy I'm taking a shot on, like Anthony and Dre said, it's DJ Moore, and I'm not going to waste a draft pick on Robby Anderson or Curtis Samuel. Those guys have just been too inconsistent. For me.
Same.
I saw a few Curtis Samuel games where he was legit open and the QB just was missing him. So he did have bad QB play because there was a few games where I was like, dude, he is wide open. And I was facing him, so I was, fucking happy as all could be. But, he could have had a way better season. Way better season.
Yeah, that's just a name to know because most people don't probably know is Ian Thomas. Like I said, there could be he could be a 60-80 target guy. I mean, he's kind of the tight end there. I think, if I remember, he's got a pretty good athletic profile too as well. So I mean, there's Teddy Bridgewater did use Jared Cook a lot there last year. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's the same offense, but, he did use the tight end position last year. Just a name to know, not like you're drafting him, but just, if Ian Thomas is someone who has, 6-7 targets week 1, maybe that's something we're talking about, if you missed on a tight end. So, just another name.
For sure. And Robby Anderson, you guys aren't interested at all?
Yeah.
I mean, he did play for Matt Rule at Temple in college.
Temple, yeah. I'll see.
But I did look up that he's never had a 1,000-yard season in the NFL or college. So, I mean, the upside is just capped. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where he just comes out and gets 1,000 yards now.
And that's when he was the one on his team. But now he's not.
He held me down last year in the fantasy playoffs, so he balled on the back end. But he's someone you can just put a flyer in.
He's
for.
Dead to me.
There's
so many times we were like, start Robby Anderson this week. He had like.
Yeah, if he can get a connection, because they're using him as like the field stretcher though. Like that's what they want, But who knows if that's gonna happen? But anyways, we can keep it pushing though.
All right, let's move on to.
Is this the last team?
Yes, this is the last
22
team.
minutes. We got it.
We got the New Orleans
22 minutes.
Saints. Drew Brees. Yeah, I mean this team is nothing in comparison to a lot of other teams that have new quarterbacks. All this different wide receivers changing. This team is eerily similar to the 2019 Saints. So we got Drew Brees behind center. He old, but he's still good.
Who got Drew Brees stats?
Who got it?
I don't have no Drew Brees stats. I just know there was something crazy off the top of my head that, like in the games he would have played, if he would have statted out a full 16 season, like he would have been
40 touchdowns.
Yeah. It would have been pretty good. So, I mean, I think you get – they have weapons. You got Michael Thomas, that you go out and get, the man crush Manny Sanders, who's still pretty good. Hopefully a full season with Kamara, not banged up. You got Jared Cook, who came, good red zone weapon there. And then you got Taysom Hill, who can do weird things here and there. So, yeah, I do like Drew Brees. I mean, it could be like his last hoorah in a sense, and I think he's going to want to go out, guns blazing.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of why I'm banking on them.
They'll be good. They'll get their hearts broken in the NFC Championship again.
I think that's why I kind of had him. I think I had him in my top 6. He's still in that range. I think it's his last year, and I'm kind of banking on him doing a little bit more this year than it's. Maybe it's not, I don't play narrative too often, but I kind of am in this situation. I know he is chasing some records and close to some records with Tom Brady and all that. So, if it's his last season, I think they're going to try and get him whatever records he can get and do all that stuff. 75% of his games last year, 74, so close enough. Top 12 finishes last year. So, 27 touchdowns in 11 games, to the point, like you said, that's only 11 games. So I think he was on pace for right about 40 as well. The yardage was I think 4,200. I've talked about this in the last episode. It's hard to remember all these numbers all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like Drew Brees this year. And you only add another weapon in Emmanuel Sanders to just kind of help that passing offense. And like you said, Kamara. I like Drew Brees.
Yeah, the only set I have that I told you guys off air, like last week, the Saints are the only team that didn't have an off-season program as far as Zoom meetings. Sean Payton just gave the playbook to Emmanuel Sanders and then just let everybody else. They're kicking it. They didn't do anything. So I think that just goes to show the trust he has in Drew Brees. I mean, they didn't really add anybody but him. But, yeah, that's just what I had heard. And then I read that, they didn't do anything for off-season. Sean Payton was just go ahead, guys, do whatever. So – it's Drew Brees. He's reliable.
What round you feel comfortable drafting Drew Brees in? Just off the top of your head.
He's the QB 10 right now.
I wouldn't take him.
I took him in
10,
he's got the name though. Where when we get closer to draft season, he'll creep up.
7th round, 8th round.
Yes, but then he's also. I feel like it's been a couple years since he's had that season, because last year he only played the 11 games.
Yeah. I think the 8-9 turn. That turn.
I'm not gonna draft Drew Brees just because I'm very much quarterback streaming kind of guy, and so it's hard for me when I hear you say 8th round. I'm like, I can wait even longer.
I would be.
But
more,
that's just me though.
I'd be more interested in getting him depending on where I'm drafting. If I end up with Michael Thomas, then maybe I'd go for the double points.
Yeah,
it's not.
So
yeah, sure.
I would be more intrigued in that. But other than that, I'm cool off of it. No disrespect, but if I get Michael Thomas in, yeah.
It's just I can find what if he finishes quarterback, if he's quarterback 10, say he finishes quarterback 8, and then versus I stream quarterbacks, and I could save myself in the 8th round, grab an upside receiver. I don't know.
I think he
no,
was,
for
but I think
sure,
he was
yeah.
like quarterback 3 or 4 in like games points per played last year. I mean, if he's a 40 touchdown type of guy this year, I mean, he's gonna way outplay that ADP.
Yeah,
and it's in his range of outcomes. So, like I said, I don't know how many Drew Brees I will have. I know I took him in one mock draft. We did because he fell to like the 10th, 11th round. And that's, I've kind of done some of these on these little like, mock drafts. He's kind of going 10th, 11th round sometimes. And like I said, I don't, when it comes to home leagues, I kind of on your side, I think people might see the name and take him, but 10th, 11th round, I'll take him and I'll pair him with someone else that I like later, like a Ryan Tannehill or someone else. But I don't mind the draft spot he's going at, but I'm not touching him like in the top 8 rounds.
Yeah.
I think I said, Mike said, I'll wait on quarterbacks if it's top 8, but if it gets to 10, 11, I fucks with it.
For sure.
All right, next guy. What we got?
We can go on to Alvin Kamara. So Tyler, Alvin Kamara kind of burned you last year.
Yeah, so I had the
How do you
first
feel
pick
now?
in one of our leagues, and I thought with no Ingram, obviously they brought in Latavius Murray, but I thought with no Ingram that it would be the full Alvin Kamara show, and we were kind of going to see kind of what Christian McCaffrey did in a sense. But obviously, getting hampered by injuries, and then the touchdowns, Kamara, what was it, like 15 one year, something like that, or 12, and then the 19
13,
one year,
19.
something like that. Yeah, something crazy like that. So I think he only had like 4 or 6 touchdowns total last year. So obviously those
6,
numbers
yeah.
came down and got injured and stuff like that. So I don't want to be biased of like, oh, you burned me because I used the number 1 pick on you. He was a player where like fantasy football is all about being fun, and it's like I've always wanted a Kamara on my team, but like he's never fallen to me. Obviously, I'm in the 1 spot, so it's like I have to take him there if I, want to get him. And I just wanted to root for the guy. I think he's super talented. He's a fun guy to watch. Super Kamario. He's a playmaker guy. So I took him at 1. He kind of burned me. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to let that hold me bias of what I feel like he can be going forward in this year, and I don't want to like judge him or rank him based on that. So where do you guys gauge him on this? Do you think he's still a top 5 running back?
I think he is.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just
5. I'll say 6 just for the sake. Then fuck it.
Name him then. Who's in front of him?
Okay. Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Zeke. Who am I missing?
Yeah.
you tell me.
What? Derrick Henry.
Don't look at me.
No, Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon can finish better than him.
Okay.
That's
Very
4. And I'm trying to think.
I feel like we haven't talked about Joe Mixon very much.
I
in
think
the
Joe.
offseason.
He's a beast. He finished strong.
Yeah.
But go.
Derrick Henry. Or actually, no, Nick Chubb. Fuck that. Nick Chubb. There's 5 right there.
Okay. That's your final answer?
I'm just saying, can you argue that crazy?
Nah, anything's in the
What
realm
about
of
Kenny Drake?
possibility.
No, yeah, dude. The
Kendrick?
Angels could
Hey,
win
you
the
forgot
pennant.
Ronald Jones.
Yeah, my bad. Justin,
Yeah, dude, that should have been the first one.
Ronald Jones.
Angels could win the pennant. It could
And also
happen.
Kamara. I mean, oh yeah, that was you talking. Who was talking about Kamara?
Just
he
saying,
was
like, where do you really gauge him right now? Obviously, I feel like last year banged up, but I think Anthony, you were saying in terms of when he was on the field, it was the Kamara show.
Well, yeah, he just his game log for the first 5 weeks: 16, 17, 16, 13, 14. He didn't see a game above 14 after the injury. It was more 11, 13, 11, 8, 4 in there. So it was kind of once that injury happened, they didn't really use him. I don't know his playoff game log. I'm curious to see if that's when they picked him back up again. But I kind of see him more in that 15 carry range, and then the receptions, what you're going to probably get around 80. Well, it seems like you're going to get 81 receptions.
81, right? Yeah.
3 straight
He's a-
years.
He's a lock for 81 receptions.
Yeah, that's what I have right there too.
So, and as far as the efficiency, he's been one of the most hyper efficient backs, and I think the touchdowns are going to bounce back to 8 to 12 touchdowns. I think he had something stupid low, like only like 7 carries inside the 5 or 8. I'm trying to remember. I was actually looking at that earlier.
Latavius Murray for sure got some good run inside the 5. And
Yeah.
obviously being hurt as well.
Yeah, and they just didn't run the ball inside the 5 as much as they did as a team last year in a whole. So I think that does balance back a little bit. Yeah, I like Kamara. He's still in my top 5. Like I said, if you're gonna give me a guy with 81 receptions, and I think he's closer to 230, 240 carries, which on a full 16, which we haven't seen him do that. And I mean, he has number 1 upside. We've seen him be the number 1 running back for a long stretch of time in the NFL, so he could do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. 81 catches, 3 straight seasons. I looked. He's like a dash over 100. He's like 100 point something as far as targets per season. So last year, this is what I thought was interesting. So he was 16th in standard and 9th in PPR, but he was 26th in the NFL with only 12.2 carries per game. 26, but he was second in the NFL with 6.9 targets per game, and obviously McCaffrey is the only one that had more than that. And he was also 24th in rush attempts per game. So you get a guy who's borderline still on a bad year who had 6 touchdowns, basically having a career low season in all those, in all those numbers, and he's still getting you good numbers. So I feel like the touchdown numbers are going to go back up. He went from 13 to 18 to 6. I think he should go back into that 10 to 12 range, even more than that. But yeah, the 12.2 carries per game, like Anthony said, if he can get to that 15, those 3 extra carries could help. I mean, the targets he's going to get, he's going to get that. But I thought it was intriguing that he was 26th in the NFL in the carries per game and still happened to be decently efficient. I mean, decently. Obviously, it wasn't what it was before, but I mean, that's. I'll take him for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
If he's 15, like where he was in that first 5-6 game stretch, he's going to probably be a top 5-6 running back. If he's closer to the second half where he was, would you say 12 point?
He finished 12, so he's probably 10.
Yeah, he's probably going to be
9.
more in the 6 to 10 range. Give or take the touchdowns. If he scored more than 13, like you said, he'll still finish in the top 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's. I mean, I guess it comes down to what do you believe at the end of the day? Because if you're going to invest a top 5 pick, you have to believe that he's going to be 15 carries a game or maybe potentially more. If you don't believe they're going to give him the full workhorse and keep him more on the 12 side, he's going to need to be hyper efficient and hyper efficient on the touchdown side to return top 5 value. So, when you're in the draft, you ask yourself what you think. And like I said, I think personally he's going to be more in the 15 carry a game, 81 receptions, send it in, no flub. And, it's kind of like go with what you believe with him.
So do you think he exceeds, obviously adding the numbers, he averaged 19.1 touches per game. Do you think he gets past that to the 20 and up? 12.12 and then 6.9?
Yeah, I'm going to assume if he's around 15 carries a game, his receptions would be over.
Like 20, 23, 25 touches.
I can't do the math in my head that fast.
I mean, if he's going to get me 19 plus touches a game,
that's
or
what he averaged
19
last
touches
year.
a game for a full 16 games, then yeah, I think he's a top 5 tight end.
Yeah.
So that's over 350 touches.
Yeah, so
top 5 tight end.
You mean running? He meant running back.
Dude,
Yeah. So 19.1. That's what he had. I think he can get to that. I think he can get to the 22.
Yeah.
22 because that gives him the 15 carries. I think he can get to 22 touches a game.
I don't think I'm going to hold his injury against him. Like I still think he's going to be. I think he's still going to be like in my top 5 running backs. He'll be right there. 5. I think 5 is probably what I'll have him gauged.
He's a 5.
He a 5.
Next victim.
So are you going to take him? If it comes down to him or Michael Thomas, you take him or Michael Thomas at the 5.
At 5,
I do like going running backs.
I would take a running
earlier, and I think the depth at receiver is nice. So I'll probably go Kamara just because by the time it comes back around to me, I wouldn't mind grabbing a guy like a Galladay or a Chris Godwin
Hopkins
in the second round.
Yeah,
No, you won't get him.
You're not getting a Hopkins at fucking
No, you never know.
The second round,
18
maybe.
overall.
Maybe
At 5 overall, you think you get him at 18 D-Hop? I don't know about that.
If you got a lot of people on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When Arlie, definitely not. In Arlie, definitely not because of the keeper thing. But in other leagues, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be
I
wild.
was just interested in their teammates.
I was just thinking Mike Evans.
But I'm a running back guy. That's why I like
too,
to go
yeah,
running backs heavy.
I think you could.
What we got, Mike?
Potentially there.
We can go into. Do you want to talk Latavius Murray real fast or no?
I guess we
A
just
good handcuff with the COVID situation. I mean, if Kamara were to go down, and then let's just say there was years where the Saints did rush for like 22 plus touchdowns or whatever. Let's just say it's that. You won't be happy taking Drew Brees if that's the case, but if that does happen, I think Latavius Murray is going to have week to week value. And if something happens to Kamara, he was like a fucking monster for like this 3 weeks.
Yeah, couple games he had 20 or more rushing attempts.
Yeah,
and on a high-powered offense like that, 20 plus rushing attempts. That's RB1 upside.
Yeah.
If we were to do a handcuff with upside top 5, he's
definitely
he's
top,
up there.
yeah.
So if that helps.
And if Kamara misses, like I said, a couple weeks because of COVID or something like that, then Latavius is for sure RB1 range territory, RB2.
Yeah, you can definitely win a league with that.
Yeah. Who do we got next, Mike?
Okay, BB. I'll tell you, we are going
Dude.
Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders goes to the New Orleans Saints. How do you feel? I know this is you call him Man Crush Manny because you loved him, Tyler.
Yeah.
Do you love him just as much in New Orleans?
I mean, I do. It's kind of tough because I feel like he's kind of like the third option, I would say, behind Michael Thomas and Kamara. But I mean, how could you not like a guy, tied to like an offense? Like you said, Anthony just said, you could almost peg Brees for 40 touchdowns, even if it's 35. I mean, you got to think the touchdown upside of 7 to 8 range, for him there, and then 800 plus yards. I mean, the mock drafts we've been doing. He's been going in like the 10th, 11th, 12th round. So I mean, for a guy that's going that late, who could be, I'm gonna say like a wide receiver 3, maybe some wide receiver 2 upside, or maybe just a guy you can throw into your flex spot. Any given week. I do like Manny Sanders, especially for where he's being drafted at.
Yeah.
This is the one I was going to tell you guys. Did you know that Emmanuel Sanders played in 17 games last year? So he was on the Broncos, and then he got traded, and then there was no bye week. So I was looking at his numbers, and I was like, this motherfucker played 17 games last year. So I was like, looking at his numbers. I was like, they're false. Yeah. So I was like, 17 games. Found some really good numbers, though. So I put sneaky good season. That's just like numbers-wise. So he faced press coverage like it's a little under 30% of the time of his routes run, which is like tops in the NFL. He had a 20.6 tight window percentage, but he had a 7.2% plus catch rate. So in getting press coverage and tight window throws, he still exceeded his expectations, had 869 receiving yards. The thing that I thought was crazy is he averaged 23.5 yards per route run, which is fucking insane for a guy who's 33 years old, coming off an Achilles tear, all while playing on 2 of the most run-heavy offenses. I mean, he was with the Broncos. They weren't doing much. Then he goes to the Niners, who ran the ball, almost the most in the NFL.
Into the ground, yeah.
Yeah, into the ground, and he still managed to have decent numbers. What I thought was crazy, he had 9 games of 5 targets or less. So before I say my next stat, how many targets do you think, just give me a number, how many targets you think Emmanuel Sanders will have with the Saints? Targets.
Can he? Or
just what do you think?
Or how many am I pegging him for?
How many are you going to peg him for before I give you this next stat?
I think a solid number would be 80, but I think he can go up to 100.
Because he had more than that with the most run-heavy teams.
I was going to say 85 to 90. Like that's like a floor.
That's your floor?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to look because the Niners are one of the most run-heavy. He in games in which he got 7 or more targets, which was only 5 games, he averaged 21.3 fantasy points per game, which is insane. But he also had 9 games of 5 targets or less because of, one, he was on a good Niner team. Once they would be winning, they would run the ball. So I did the number. If he averaged 7 targets per game for 16 games, it's only 112 targets, which I think he could easily get as a number 2 for the Saints.
Yeah.
So obviously, if he's not going to average 21.3 fucking points, but just to show you that if he gets 7, that's 112 for the season. You can get a guy who's he can get you 75 to 80 catches for 1,000 yards. I think that sounds crazy, but I mean the numbers. I think he could easily do that with Michael Thomas commanding
that would
so
be
much.
A wide receiver too, right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I put 900 to 1,100 and 8 touchdowns. His touchdown is the cap, but he can get you 70 catches, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went, like, when they first picked him up, I know we were, like, low, but then I was like, Sean Payton's always used his playmakers in his offense. Emmanuel Sanders is, he's still a playmaker at this stage of his career. He's actually the reason why I'm not taking Michael Thomas as my number 1 receiver, and I'm taking Devontae Adams. Even if, Michael Thomas, his target share last year, 186 targets. The other receivers combined for under 100 targets. I mean, I just don't think that's replicating. It's
tough.
Not at all.
Yeah. So I mean, there's Emmanuel Sanders. If he sees 90, Michael Thomas is probably going to see 150, 160 still. But that's not where he was last year. So he is the sole reason why I actually kind of have. Michael Thomas outside of my number 1.
Yeah, and 90 targets would be 6 targets a game.
Yeah,
and
which is a usable piece, and those are Drew Brees targets.
Yeah.
Those are better than
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Kyle Allen targets.
He had 870 yards and 5 touchdowns with Joe Flacco and Jimmy G. So that's where I get 900. I'm like, if he can get 870 with those guys, there's no reason he can't get 900 to 1,000 with Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Especially being
good
the number
value.
2.
Like I said, I feel like because he's going in like I said, the 10th, 11th, 12th round.
He can be a league winner. He's one of those guys who I think who could ball.
Yeah. That's why it's called man crush.
And worst case scenario, you have some matchups where just say they're playing the Bucks, and we kind of think it's going to be a shootout game, and it's like, okay, this is the perfect week to start him. Yeah, the dome. I don't know if there's anyone who could shut down Michael Thomas, but he's
going to command so much attention.
Yeah, it's going to leave. Emmanuel Sanders is going to be the 2. He's not getting double covered because they're bringing double coverage over to Michael Thomas.
Yeah. You need someone.
And Brees is going to see that, and he's going to be like, okay, we have a mismatch here.
Yeah,
he didn't have a mismatch with Traquan Smith.
Yeah,
I
no.
was like,
They tried to do. They tried for 2 years, but he just
yeah,
couldn't do it.
they need his brother Duke one.
Good information on Emmanuel Sanders. Once again, becoming the fantasy man crush.
Of the week.
Manny.
Of the year.
All right, we can go on to Michael Thomas. Obviously, I feel like this is another one of those self-explanatory. Obviously, we have Kamara, we have Christian McCaffrey.
First round wide receiver.
You know,
I put first off the board. I put he's averaged 150 targets since he's come into the league. It's like 150.2.
I mean, he's a savage.
Not many rookies
His name's
can say
Can't Guard
that.
Mike for a reason.
That's it. He got blessed with a great landing spot though. To get average 150 targets since your rookie year is insane.
I mean, you still have to get open.
For sure,
Yeah. But still,
It's
crazy.
Michael Thomas.
he always
Enough
open.
said.
Enough said.
Okay, we can move on to the next one. Here we got Jared Cook. What do you guys feel?
To me, it's like he's like a touchdown or bust, but he could easily score the touchdown.
I have one sentence and then T, I'll give it to you. I put expect regression. This is the only stat I have. He caught a touchdown every 4.7 catches. There's no way that's happening again in a gajillion years. Those are like stupid.
He has Drew Brees, so maybe.
Dude, he had no way, dude. He had 43 catches, 9 touchdowns. That's not, especially now with Emmanuel Sanders coming back, a healthy Alvin Kamara. I'm sure he'll be all right, but that 4.7 touchdown catch rate is going.
Yeah. How many targets did he have last year? Do you have it pulled up?
He had
I just looked it up.
So he had 43 catches. That's all I know.
So I know his last couple tight end finishes, tight end 7 last year. Obviously, he had the 9
Tight end
receiving
5.
touchdowns. Tight end 5. He had over like 100 targets that year with the Raiders. I think that's just how they use the tight ends. Obviously, they do the same with Waller. But then
65 targets.
years prior to that, tight end 13, tight end 36, and tight end 30. So he's one of those guys who's all over the place. I think he's really based on, you just said one every 4 catches is a touchdown. 9 touchdowns last year. That was second most for tight ends. And even with having the second most touchdowns for tight ends, he only finished tight end 7. I think there's definitely a lot of regression for that. I mean, he had 11 end zone targets. That was second most for tight ends. But then you bring in a guy like, a Manny Sanders or, Kamara, only 6 touchdowns last year after having 13 plus the 2 years prior to that. I think, Kamara will get, back to that 12 plus touchdown range, and then Manny Sanders will obviously get his. So I think, like Anthony said, it's kind of the touchdown upside. Could he do it? 100%. But, I mean, even with the 9 touchdowns, I think his ceiling is tight end 7. So he's kind of like a back end tight end 1 to me. I think I had him ranked at 12. I think that's probably where I'll keep him in my ranking, somewhere around there, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-ish, give or take. At any point right there, one touchdown could be the difference between tight end 15 and tight end 10, realistically.
Yeah. I'm not too big on him. Like I said, there's guys that I would much rather have. I mean, 43 catches. I'd rather have Jonnu Smiths of the world and, your Giuseppes. I'd rather take Dallas Goedert, over him.
Yeah, there's probably guys as well I'll be taking over him.
Noah
But
Fant.
end of the day,
Noah Fant for sure.
when it comes to rankings,
Ebron for
and
sure.
his potential for touchdown, it's on a given week. It's probably for tight ends. It might be one of the top 3 in a given week. So it's
feast or famine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. I think end of the year he's just still going to finish around tight end 10, 12. But I'm probably not going to want to draft him, or I'm going to be crossing my fingers he scores that week if I do draft him and play him. So that's kind of like my outlook on him, where it's like I'd rather take a player where I have a little bit more week to week kind of certainty, and
his boom is too low.
Yeah, could he get me 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 33 yards, 2 touchdowns? Yeah, but could he also get me 2 catches for 12 yards and no touchdowns in a week? Yeah, and that could also, I guess it could. It's basically a 0 at the tight end position.
I think he's gonna be one of those guys where he did so well last year. People are gonna think about like, he had the 9 touchdowns.
Which is a classic.
And he's gonna be that name that where he, especially if if it goes like Mike said earlier, it goes on a tight end run, someone might panic and be like, I need a tight end, and they're reaching for him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, where it's like, yo, man, like I'll take a guy like a Hayden Hurst or like a Jonnu Smith in these later rounds, and I'm not gonna miss up on taking a value at running back or wide receiver potentially.
Yeah, and there's a narrative I've heard like some people talk about where it's like, well, he was on pace for this, that. And even that he did have more touchdowns when Drew Brees was in the game than Teddy Bridgewater. It was like 6 touchdowns in the 11 games or 7. But we just said how Emmanuel Sanders is there, and he's going to take some more of that target share. You take some more of a target share on a guy who's not targeted very high. I don't like that coming in. So it's like people were creating that narrative when Emmanuel Sanders wasn't there. So that narrative basically doesn't exist. So fuck your narrative.
And on top of that, on top of a
So I'm getting a little sleepy.
4.7, the catch rate, that's a career high. So that's the most touchdowns he's ever had to go along with that crazy catch rate, the touchdown rate. So, yeah.
He could have like a 10% because he might get like 20 catches and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. Maybe, I guess.
That's for sure possible.
He could. That'd be wild. But a 4.7 for a tight end. I mean, 4.7 for anybody is ridiculous, let alone a tight end who's going into his 11th year or 12th year.
How long? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's been cooking for a while.
He's been cooking.
He's fucking top chef.
He started as a sous chef. Now he is the fucking head chef. It's called Cooks.
All right, we got anything else?
I think that's it.
Will Lutz, you can draft him.
What about we didn't throw Taysom Hill in there. So obviously he has
Matt
that
Ryan.
That tag of what is it, tight end or wide receiver or something like that. Like he's got like that flex play
I wish.
ability. Would you be willing to take a risk on him then and draft Taysom
I
Hill?
honestly haven't looked at his numbers. So I'm gonna say no off head, but I don't know.
I know in our league, in our dynasty, he's still a QB. So until they open him up as like all three.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen before where they opened it up, but we gotta look at that before I go ahead and say. I mean, if he's there though,
I don't know if a commissioner can change that, but I know in my league he's a QB strictly. So, but I mean,
I don't think in like the main apps you can change people's positions because then it would get crazy. I mean, I guess if everybody agrees on it, but.
All right.
So
I don't know. I guess we'll
it's a
get
good
back
question
to you
though.
guys on that.
Yeah.
We're back to the next episode.
That's for the next class. Next class.
All right, we want to. Yeah,
Will Lutz.
That's
He's a good kicker.
He's good
Yeah,
from
Will
60.
Lutz is good.
He's good from 60.
Oh, we didn't cover any of those defenses, but
It's all good. They're gonna beat up each other all season.
honestly, dude, get ready for the Mr. Miyagi defensive stream of the week because
Actually, the Bucks were sneaky good.
that's how you
They were number
win.
3 overall last year.
All right, well, thank you for
They
listening.
finished really good.
This has been the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast, Season 3, Episode 32. We just finished the NFC, National Football Conference.
It's for the North. I think we're getting a little.
North.
The
we're recording
Northern
pretty late
Football
today.
Conference. No, but yeah, so we finished the NFC. We got all those done. So if you listen to this episode and you're like, what? You guys did the NFC West? My favorite teams in the NFC West. I love the Cardinals. We did cover the Cardinals. All right, you can go check that out. We covered Drake. We covered Hopkins.
Yeah. Who?
Exactly.
Did you hit it?
Yeah. He did. He
My
actually did
headphones were
perfect
plugged in.
timing.
Bro, I'm better than Mike, dude. I'm on it, dude.
But yeah, so
see, Mike wouldn't hit it.
go check out all that stuff. All the table of contents are in there so you can easily navigate through the episode. If you haven't subscribed already, if you got any information from this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify. Follow us. Whatever app you use to consume podcasts, go ahead and leave us a review or a rating. He's looking at super poopers over there.
Yeah.
And that's how you know the podcast is over.
It's popping.
But yeah, leave us a review on those podcast apps. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter if you want to ask us any type of fantasy football questions. Obviously, we're getting close. It's almost August. We're getting close into draft season. So
Yeah.
if you have questions for your upcoming draft, please let us know, and we got your back. We are your personal fantasy football consigliere. We are out.